What's up, everyone? Welcome to GameFace episode 400. Can you believe it? We've made it to 400 episodes of GameFace, and the only reason that has happened is because of the guy sitting across the table from me, and that is Matt Kyle. Matt, we made it to 400, brother. That's a big freaking deal, man. There aren't a lot of podcasts that make it to 400 episodes.
That's true. I mean, technically, I'm 385 because I wasn't on camera.
Whatever. We'll forget about that. In fact, we have a little trip down memory lane that I put together, and it's pretty crazy to watch. First of all, when we first started all this stuff, I didn't need these things. I did not need glasses at all. Like, almost all the clips we're going to show, I'm not wearing glasses. And now I have to wear them pretty much to read anything. Matt and I were talking before the show started about my vision, how it's getting worse. And I was telling him now, sometimes when I go to eat food, my food is a little blurry when I'm eating food. And he's got a different issue. Like, he can see stuff close up but not far away. But anyway, it just shows you that this has been going for quite a while, that all these physiological changes. I've also added like 20 pounds since it all started. I wish I could get my vision back and cut off the weight that I had when we started all this stuff. But what a ride it has been, honestly.
Luckily, I am thinner than I was when we started this.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, I've gone up and down. Like, looking through the footage, it's like when we started, I was skinny as a rail because I had just done the insanity workout. And then, like, you can even see at our first location, before we went to leave, I had started to put on a little bit of weight. And then from then on, it's like up and down, up and down. I have no idea why, but that's the way it's been. But anyway, welcome to GameFace episode 400. I want to thank all you guys, because you're the real reason we made it to 400. Matt's been an integral part, and, just a lot of hard work and determination have made it happen. But without you guys, it literally does not happen that we get to this point. So I just want to thank you. In fact, we got some new graphics we're going to show you guys right now. Let's take a look at our chat and see what you guys are doing here for 400. First,
I can't make faces at the chat now.
Well, you can. They can see your faces now.
That's the point. I can't make faces
without them seeing you now. I see. I do want to say something, though. People had requested, and I took a lot of requests into consideration when working on the graphics and everything for this. Everybody had requested that we change the chat to dark mode. And I just want you to know, I have been trying to do that for weeks. I cannot figure it out. I have followed 10 different tutorials online, and all of them basically change stuff for, like, the app. I can't get the pop-out window with just our chat to change to dark mode. If any of you guys know how to do that, hit me up. Send me a message on SIFTD or on Twitter or whatever, and I will change it. I just want you to know that I tried to do that. I know it was something that you guys wanted, and I tried to make it happen for 400. Unfortunately, I couldn't figure it out. So for now, we have light chat for our new chat window. But I like that we now have the ability for you guys to see us while we talk to you guys in chat, so you can see kind of the back and forth. I know Matt said he doesn't like that, but I think you guys will like it, be able to see us react. But anyway, let's go through here. Don Lionheart, thank you for the tier 1 subs. David5807, thank you for Twitch Prime. Minority Games, thank you for 1,000 bits, man. That's awesome. Cinetite, thank you for subscribing. What else we got here? Let me scroll up. Don Lionheart, David Nordic, thank you for Twitch Prime. Link So Good, thank you for Twitch Prime. Toast9, thank you. Justin Horman, thank you for subscribing at tier 3 for 86 months. You're on an 86-month streak. How did you do that? I don't know how you did it, because I have like alerts set up in my phone.
Yeah, even I haven't subscribed that much.
Yeah, and I miss it every once in a while. I still miss it sometimes. Like, I'll lose my streak. I don't know how you've done it, man. Justin Horman, thank you. I mean, you're one of our #1 fans, period. We owe you a lot, and we really...
How many episodes did Invisible Walls get up to?
Not this many, not even close. Like, I left it like 3 something, I think, somewhere around there, or maybe even 200 and something. Yeah, we did way more episodes of GameFace than Invisible Walls for sure. What else we got here before we get going? Rock and Roll 458, thank you for gifting tier 1 subs to everybody. That's awesome. Everyone wishing us a happy 40th. Thanks everybody for the well wishes. It's taken a lot of heart and soul to get here. I just want you to know. Don Lionheart, thank you for subscribing with Twitch Prime. Oh, Minority Games dropping a bunch of bits. Thank you. Too Quick Capri, thank you for Twitch Prime. Cinetyke, thank you for Twitch Prime. People liking the songs that we played before the show today. It's all good, man. It is all good. I just want to say I have busted my butt for this today. I've been trying to get this together while managing Gamescom. So yesterday was just insane for me. Like trying to get all the stuff curated from Gamescom and get this show ready with all the content from Gamescom. Because we're going to talk to you guys. You guys know by now, there's no better place to go for analysis and recap of a convention. We show you guys every game. Nobody does that. Most people just sit there and blab for an hour. We show you every game, and it is a lot of work to do that. Every single trailer. I have to download it. I need to take it into Premiere. I need to clean it up. I need to chop the head and the tail off. I try to cut out all the graphics in between. I do that for every trailer that we run on this show, people. It is a lot of work. I literally didn't know if I was going to get this done, and I'll be honest with you, I ended up forgetting one of our graphics today. It's just so many moving parts for one person to keep track of. It's too much, honestly, in a lot of cases. I felt overwhelmed yesterday. I've never had a panic attack before, but I think I got close yesterday. Like, it got to a point where my heart was beating real fast. I'm like, can I be able to get this done? But anyway, here we are. We made it for episode 400. I do want to run some clips from the past that are kind of fun to watch. And we have new graphics for everything, I should add. So here, we have a graphic for housekeeping. However, housekeeping is going to change on the show going forward. Housekeeping is really just going to be housekeeping, which means some episodes...
That optimistic young lad.
Which means some episodes we won't have it at all. But the reason that is because we have renamed the housekeeping to headlines, which makes more sense. And we have another surprise coming for you guys in a little bit when we start actually getting to the headlines. We have a new addition to the show that's going to happen every single week that I think you guys will like, but you have to wait a couple minutes to get the debut of that. But Matt, kind of what are your impressions of 400 episodes of GameFace? What are your thoughts?
That's a lot.
It is, man. It really is.
I mean, I remember sitting behind the TriCaster on this episode we're watching right now, and trying to figure out what the buttons did. But it's I always remember I do tend to take mental note of things that start when they start and think because especially coming off of having worked in at G4 and Tech TV for 12 years, it's just like you see how things you know how things snowball, and it's just like suddenly we've made 1,300 episodes of Let's Play.
Because we had done 500 by the time I left or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Close to it.
Which is insane as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I remember doing the early single digit, double digit episodes and things like, well, maybe one day we'll be in some respectable amount of numbers. I don't think I thought we would be in 400 range.
Yeah.
But so what was that? Something like 1,200 hours.
I don't even know. 3 hours times 400. Yeah, 1,200 hours of awesome video game discussion we have created here at GameFace. It really is crazy. And again, we mentioned this a couple weeks ago about IGN. Some of its shows are at 1,000, episode 1,100. It's pretty insane. They've gone through, some of those shows have gone through 8 different hosts and things like that. IGN, basically what it did was we started Invisible Walls, and then IGN after that started doing its podcast, and it hasn't stopped. So it's as if I did Invisible Walls this entire time, basically, and that's why those shows are now up over 1,000 or whatever. It's been crazy just looking back through. First of all, I want to say one of my biggest mistakes with SIFTD was choosing this blue as the color of SIFTD. I now despise that blue.
Yeah.
I don't know why I chose it. Brent and I were working on it, and he's like, okay, we need to figure out what is going to be the third color of the site besides black and white. And we went through a bunch of colors and we ended up choosing that blue, and it's still all over the website, that blue. And I do regret it now. I wish that we had chosen a different color, but that was so long ago. Mitchell Ness says it is a popular blue. It is, and at the time it was really, really popular. And now not so much. It's kind of like teal cars in the 80s. I remember that. You get a Geostorm, but they only sold it in teal.
No, I had a Geostorm. It was
Did
black.
you?
It was black.
I'm joking, obviously.
That was my first. I originally was driving my mom's Firebird Formula, 91 Firebird, and then backing out of the driveway. We had a very long driveway. the right side rear view mirror caught on one of the uneven fence posts on the fence and tore the whole molding off the entire door because that was all one plastic piece.
Oh yeah.
And so my dad got me a Geostorm. He's like, here, you can destroy this one, and it won't cost so much to deal with.
The reason I said Geostorm, it was that era where all cars teal was the hot new car color.
The Geo Trackers had that.
There's
color
another one
all the time. Like
which are now illegal, I think.
Yeah, they were very.
They roll over.
They were very dangerous cars. So was mine. Like
really?
mine. They rotated the tires wrong once, and it was just starting to skid through intersections like in light rain. And of course I was like 18, and I was like, that's probably fine. And I was like, at one point I drove my friend home. He came to see the play I was in college, and I drove him and my girlfriend back to his house in Half Moon Bay. We drove along Devil's Slide along the edge in the rain at night.
Yeah.
And I am convinced to this day that we only didn't skid off the road off the cliff into the ocean because there were 3 of us in the car and we were weighed down so much that we actually had traction.
That's funny and a little scary.
There's a bunch of timelines where I did not survive that night, I think.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that. But again, this montage just really takes you back. All the different sets that we've had, all the different setups that we've had. All the different this tune that you guys made. Like, I haven't seen the guy who made this on the site in forever. I don't know what happened to him.
I don't know.
But you guys have obviously pitched in to do a bunch of awesome stuff for us and with us. It's just all been this awesome journey with you people. And again, we wouldn't be able to do it without you guys.
I don't think I ever noticed that the buckle on my super-powered Viking version has a Decepticon symbol on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's when it was called Assassin's Creed Kingdom.
Right, yeah. There's all kinds of little details in this where he picked up on like little nuances and things like that and tossed them in there. This is one of my favorite things that a fan has ever done, honestly. It really is very clever and very good.
That was pretty close to right on this.
Yeah.
That pretty much was.
It was kind of accurate, yeah. So we had the setup with the living room. Then we had the setup with the couch. Mm-hmm. And then we got the studio again over on Bundy Street. We were in there for a while. And then Mitch came in and worked with us for a while there. Mm-hmm. And then COVID hit while we were there.
And that was the shower room, right?
Yep. That was where the TriCaster TD was always in the shower room. Mm-hmm. And then we went over, and then COVID hit. And then we went over to that other place on Bundy that had the big glass windows.
The real estate office.
Yeah. It's been, there's the couch where we did the show on the couch for a while. What else we got here? I'll start skipping through this. And then this is the first Bundy location with the shower and Jared and Mitch. And what else we got here? There's when we got a little bit closer for the shot. There's Mitch, who was our TriCaster TD for a while. Now he's working at Naughty Dog, doing really well, which is awesome. Here's COVID. This is when COVID hit. We started doing all the shows from home.
Well, after COVID hit, judging by that hair.
Yeah. And this was where I was actually going into the studio at first for a while, and you were still staying at home because we still wanted to separate in case either one of us got it. This was back when COVID was deadly. Like, if you got, like, the Delta variant, like, you were going to have a really rough ride. Yep. DeShazer Ryan Realty has been a sponsor of ours for a really long time. Ellis Cream has been a sponsor of ours for a really long time.
Yeah. Is it really GameFace if there aren't, like, beauty shots of Montana homes?
Yeah, it's serious. Libby, Montana, baby. They've done us very well, and I very much appreciate them. And then here's the studio, our second studio on Bundy, where we had the glass windows. I would argue probably our nicest studio, I think.
Yeah, that was a good setup.
I like the view. I like this view, how you can see outside. It gave a new element to the show for sure that it had never had before, being able to see outside. It's just crazy.
Even if it kind of always looked like you were halfway through a nuclear explosion.
Yep, you're right. And then here we are here with the first setup. And then here's just a very quick montage of all the different places you and I work together. It's crazy, Matt. Look at this, man. Really. Just
a lot of places.
It really is, man. What a journey it has been, people. And again, it's all because of you guys. If it weren't for you guys supporting us on Patreon, on our old subscription system, doing Twitch Prime like you guys are doing right now, we have a good group of people subscribing on YouTube at this point. What's up, YouTube peeps? Thank you. You guys are awesome. We appreciate all you guys. And again, it took a village. It's a cliche, but it really took a village to get us to episode 400. So thank you guys so much. I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. I hope you guys end up liking the changes we made to the show for episode 400. As always, as you get more into the show, you'll start seeing new stuff. And as always, Feel free to give us your feedback. Be polite. Be cool about it. Constructive feedback. We're always looking for it. So after you watch the episode, watch the whole episode before you do. But once you watch the whole episode, give us some feedback on what you think of 400. This isn't done. It's close to done, but it's not completely done. So if there's little tweaks and other things that you want to see, let us know. And as always, we listen to you guys. We always do, and we always will. So anyway, my wife today was just like, man, like 400. Like she kept like dancing around. She really made it sink in for me. Because I've just been grinding this week trying to get through Gamescom and all this stuff.
If only one of us hadn't been sick one time,
yeah,
it would have been last week,
and
you would have had an easier time.
It's true. But whatever. It's all good. We made it here, and that's what matters, and we're here with you guys now, and that's great.
At least it wasn't, we weren't sick one more time, and then it'd be next week when you had to leave.
So Vincent is saying, hey, there's a big gap down there. What's going on, Shane? That looks weird. And, oh, I'm sorry. There you go. That's why the gap's there, Vincent. You know I think of everything, bro. I got it all covered, man.
Except that one graphic.
Except that one graphic. So anyway, and again, I wanted to give a screen for chat for you guys because it is an important part of the show. The back and forth here is why we do this show live. Like, I could seriously, like, just record this with Matt and go home and put it all together in post. And chances are it would probably look and sound a little better if we did it that way. But the conversation between Matt and I and you guys, I think it really sets the show off. And I think it makes a big difference in the show. And I also think it's something that you do not see in a lot of other podcasts, gaming podcasts. Sometimes they'll do Q&A at the end, but they don't jump back and forth and interact with their live audience like we do. I'm kind of surprised, actually, that more shows don't do that. Like,
I don't know. That's pretty standard Twitch gamer
it is,
stuff,
but they don't do
the
it.
Shows don't really do it.
Like, IGN doesn't do its podcast live.
Yeah,
they're all
I mean,
pre-recorded.
if I were IGN, I wouldn't want to talk to those people anyway.
I will say this: we have better people than what IGN has. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I don't think IGN could do it live. You just have trolls.
Yeah, you're probably right, man. Because they've hit the mass audience, and that's when it starts to get nasty. We have a little bit more of a curated audience here at SIFTD, and I love it. Did they ever make sales from the ads on SIFTD? Yes, every single one of our sponsors have made sales from our ads. That's why they keep coming back. Yeah, even Libby Montana Real Estate. They sold a house, and somebody told them that they came to them because of our show. And if you figure you sell one house,
yeah,
you've covered the sponsorship for the next, like, however long. So once you make that one sale, you're like, okay, we're good. So anyway, yeah, it works. And again, that's because of you guys. You guys go and you support our sponsors, and that is very, 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 very important. Because if you figure a sponsor, do you know how hard it is to get enough patrons to cover just one sponsor for a month? It's almost impossible.
I mean, you wonder if someone has done, someone has done all the sponsors. They buy a house and then fill it with LS Clean.
Right. I mean, it is possible.
They've cleaned their sneakers in the sink. Like, that's...
That is totally possible. So anyway, I just want to say it again. Thank you guys. Without you guys, none of this would have happened. We never would have made it this far. I just appreciate you guys very, very much. Much love coming from me. So thank you guys for getting us to 400. Now, let's get into the show proper. It's time to go on to headlines and also time.
Headlines. Dateline Los Angeles.
Yep. And we have a good bit of news, but so today on the show, I didn't even preview the show, actually. Actually, I didn't even preview, like, any of the stuff. I didn't talk about how we get paid or any of that. But we have a lot to get to. We have a big news section today. Not so much with Gamescom stuff, which is kind of surprising. Then we're covering Gamescom, which is like 25 games or something that I plucked out of everything that's been covered so far. We're talking Madden today. We're talking Black Myth Wukong. We're talking Funko Fusion today. A pleasant surprise, I would add. We're going to talk about that. I played it this week. So we have an awesome show, and we need to get to it. So let's get to the headlines, Matt.
Catch up with chat.
Oh. I should probably just turn over chat to you, Matt, during the show. Because I have so many other things going on. It's really hard for me to keep up with it. Dragon Age, people are asking. I'm not sure what they're asking about. We don't have code. Oh, will we discuss it today? A little bit.
The trailer.
Yeah.
The release date trailer.
Yeah. We'll get to it in our headlines. And then here's one of the new surprises today. In every episode of GameFace going forward, we are going to have a news crawl running along the bottom of the screen. We'll have it running during headlines, and they'll probably have it running towards the end of the show as well, as we're doing like Q&A and name that game and stuff like that. But anyway, we're we talk about news every week, there should probably be a crawl along the bottom of the screen that highlights all the big headlines from the week. And there you go. Again, something you won't see on any other video game podcast. If you haven't figured it out by now, I am trying to create the world's best video game podcast. That is my goal. So anything you guys want or suggest that you think could make it the best video game podcast in the world, give it to me. That's the goal here with GameFace. I want to make it a show that this is the only show that you need to watch every week. Now, you can go and watch other shows if you want to, but you don't need to. And that's what we're trying to do here on GameFace. So scroll below. There's all the news that you need. Don't need to go somewhere else for it. That's what we're trying to do here. Cinetike says, is the beginning of the chat Matt title going forward? I'm not sure what that means, actually.
Me controlling chat, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he could totally do that. Rock and roll. The news ticker is dope. Thanks, Shane. No problem. I've wanted to do a lot of stuff that we just did for this episode for a long time. But here's the thing: it's like anything I do like this, that's extra. Mm-hmm. Like I'm working full time already, so if I do stuff like this, that's overtime that I'm working beyond the 70 hours I'm already working. So I wish I could do stuff like this more often, but unfortunately, it's just not feasible. Yeah, Sanitike says Matt in control of the chat mouse. I meant okay. All right, let's get to headlines. The first story in headlines for episode 400 is the Silent Hill 2 remake. Matt, people have been down on this. People have been bagging on it, saying it doesn't look like Silent Hill. It doesn't feel like Silent Hill 2. They've laughed at the voice acting. They've laughed at the character models. Well, this week, the press finally got a chance to actually play the Silent Hill 2 remake, and their opinions have basically been glowing. All of them have been like, we were wrong. All the hate we've been giving this game, we were wrong. And we played 3 or 4 hours of it, and we think people are going to like it. Have you ever seen anything like that, where the press kind of had this negative opinion, and then all of a sudden, it all changed?
Probably. I just can't think of anything.
I can't think of one. Usually once we sniff something out, we're right. I hate to say something like that, but it's kind of true. Usually once we feel like we figured something out enough to actually verbalize it, we're usually right. And to be fair, we weren't one of the podcasts that were really banging on this.
I will never like the character models in this.
Yeah.
Like, I think they don't look like the characters. But that doesn't mean the game will be bad.
Yeah.
I just don't think that looks like James and Angela. That's...
I mean, I think most people would agree with you on that.
So, I mean, if they weren't wearing those clothes, I would have no idea who those were.
Yeah, or the iconic shots from the prior game that they framed very well for these trailers to kind of jog your memory and remind you. Because let's be honest, Matt, a lot of people who are going to play this game weren't even alive when Silent Hill 2 was released. I mean, that's just the truth of the matter. So I'm encouraged by the fact, and unfortunately, we did not get code. I don't have any contacts with Konami. Like, I used to have great contacts there, but I don't know if they even have USPR anymore.
Yeah, I don't know how that whole thing is organized anymore.
I don't know how to get in touch with them anymore, unfortunately, which sucks because we used to be really good friends with, remember, Tammy Schachter, who was the head of Konami PR for years and years, was literally like one of my best friends in the industry. And so we used to have a great line to Konami, but now Konami disappeared from making games like this for a few years, and they seem to have lost their PR team. So I've lost touch with Konami, unfortunately. So I didn't get to play this. So I'm just repeating what other critics are saying. But I'll say this. It was pretty much unanimous. Every preview was like, oh my God, we were so wrong.
ETH Demon, basically, that was Doom. Doom 2016, people were very down on that early on.
So really?
What was the point of this? Why do we need a new Doom?
I don't remember that, actually.
And then when they got their hands on it, they're like, oh wait, this is awesome.
Now I see. Yeah. Well, here's another one. So if you were kind of bummed that everybody else was bummed on the Silent Hill 2 remake, maybe you should start reconsidering. There still isn't a ton of media out there for this.
No, I don't. I mean, we never really got any kind, still don't have any kind of clear idea of how it plays moment to moment.
Well, the previews were all written. They weren't even video previews.
Well, exactly. And then obviously the trailers are very action heavy because, like, what else are you going to show in a trailer? You know?
People
it's
creeping
like,
around.
Turned it into an action movie. It's like, well, yeah, but what else? You're going to show like some guy walking through a hallway for 14 minutes? Like, it's like that's. Silent Hill is a hard game to turn it into a trailer.
It really is, yeah. If it's true to what Silent Hill was, which it probably is. Because you're right, all it is walking around with the flashlight really slowly down the dark hallway.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of sad people in the dark.
Yeah,
like,
and then and then if you put like the exciting parts in it, it ruins the game.
Yeah.
So you really can't. So instead you get stuff like this angsty scene of him holding a noose. Like, I think honestly, Retro Modern Gamer says I thought they fired everyone. I think they did fire everyone. Like, I know they definitely fired the people that we knew that were working at Konami
someone in there
US.
has to be manning a phone somewhere. Like, I don't know how you're getting. I mean,
but if you notice, every time you land on a plane in Las Vegas, you see Konami's headquarters there in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
They're still there. So I don't know what they're doing. Probably just managing their mobile stuff, would be my guess.
Yeah, I imagine it's a skeleton crew.
Yeah. So they're still there, but their PR has definitely been shipped out.
It used to be Bay Area.
Yeah. So this is a little encouraging for my fantasy team that people are saying now it isn't terrible at least. And then also, Matt, did you see the Plucky Squire actually is coming out this year?
Yeah.
We got a release date trailer for that this week. So I thought that game was off the board. It's back on the board. I still think I definitely have two no-shows, though. And my alternates are not great. So.
Well, I have only one alternate. So.
All right, you lost an alternate.
Yeah, because Avowed slipped.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to need it.
Yeah, I don't think you will either. Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to need either one, which is too bad because my other alternate is Helldivers, and I got an 82.
Right, yeah, which would have been a great alternate pick. It has been kind of funny watching games come out this year and being like, man, I never would have thought to pick that game, and it got an 87.
Yeah, the scores are kind of all over the place. They've been hard to predict.
It really has been. This year in particular, it seems like it's been really hard to predict what's gonna happen.
Like, I'm very curious with Star Wars. That's not just my first pick, the first pick. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that might be like an 80.
I think it'll be better than that, but we'll see. Yeah, and just so you guys know,
people just seem so down on the Ubisoft thing. It's funny. I've talked to 3 other people this week who are like more, much more casual gamer people, and they asked about that Star Wars. Are you excited about that Star Wars game? I'm like, yeah, it was. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Am I weird that I like the Ubisoft games? And I'm like, no, I don't think it's weird that you like. I think that's just a bunch of very loud, small group of people that just endlessly hate on the Ubisoft formula because. You can, there's like people sitting there saying like Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows are going to bomb and, because woke or whatever. It's just like, those games are going to sell millions. Yeah. Millions and millions of copies. Yeah. Like, you're out of your fucking mind if you think the Samurai Ninja Assassin's Creed game is going to be one of the top selling games of the year. You out of your fucking gourd? What are you talking
Some of them
about?
are. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, they are.
They are.
They are. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, if you're bummed like me about the initial reports about the Silent Hill 2 remake, maybe this makes you feel a little bit better. Maybe it gets it back on your radar. By the way, it's coming here in like 6 weeks. By the way, October of this year is freaking insane. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't know how we're going to sleep. I don't know why they haven't loaded more games into November. Literally, everything's coming out in October. I don't know why. Why have they bumped it up a month from when it used to be? Why do you think that is?
I don't know if they bumped it up a month so much as maybe a lot of people thought the Switch was coming in November.
That could be. And they want to get out of the way, maybe.
That was just sort of where they planned the whole time, and so that's just where distribution is what it is. So
yeah.
It's like we either come out when we plan to come out or we pay extra money to store everything in a warehouse for 2 weeks.
That is possible. Absolutely. So anyway, if you're like me and you're a little bit bummed about what we've been hearing about Silent Hill 2, maybe things are turning around a little bit. We won't know till we play the final game, though, obviously. It could still be terrible. I'm just telling you what all the rest of the press is saying about the game based upon what they played of it.
Yeah, you're taking, remaking one of the best horror games ever made, I would say the best horror game ever made. It's bold.
Bloober Team said it's been terrified.
I'm sure.
While it's been working on the game. Yeah.
They should make a horror game about that.
They're like, we took a big risk doing this.
That should be one of the Dark Pictures installments, is making a Silent Hill 2 remake.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, next up.
Do a quick time event to get the code right.
Yeah. Next up in headlines.
Oh, no, that's what Angela looks like now? Well, we're stuck with it.
Next up in headlines, another game that is related to my fantasy team, and this is now one of the games I fully admit is not going to come out this year, and it's not going to be at Gamescom, and that is Hollow Knight Silksong. Found out yesterday it's not going to be at Gamescom. I don't even know what to say about this game anymore, Matt, at this point.
I don't think anybody does. And
what
there's
the hell?
There's a point at which it's just like, who cares anymore?
That's the thing, Matt. I don't even really care that much. I am not a Hollow Knight stan. I am not a gigantic fan of Hollow Knight. I know everybody else is. That's why I picked it for my video game fantasy team. But how do you strike a deal with Microsoft for your game to be on Game Pass in June of 2024, and you just blow past it and don't leave making an... I'm sure they've talked to Microsoft, and Microsoft knows what's going on, but they haven't talked to anybody else or shared with anyone else what's going on. What the hell, man? I fully expect, actually, Matt, that this game one day is just going to stealth launch. Mm-hmm. We're going to wake up one day and be like, help, look, Hollow Knight Silksong is available. And everyone's going to be like, oh, okay, that's the way it probably should happen.
I'm glad you announced it in 2019.
And it was DLC. It started as DLC. Oh my God. Swanland says, from what the devs have said about it, it's getting rid of charms in place of crafting. This could be a really polarizing game. Maybe.
I'll be honest, it's been so long since Hollow Knight, I don't even understand what you're
I don't even know what you mean now. It's been so long since I played the original. And again, I'm not a gigantic fan of the original to begin with.
No, so. I liked it, but I didn't think it was the end-all, be-all that, like, I know it's
a lot of people do.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Like, but it's like, it's cool, but it's too fucking long.
Yeah.
And
they're probably making this one too long as well.
Yeah, it looks like it. Like, one of the reasons I was interested in this, because she looks like she can do so much more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably going to be a much more manageable size, but I imagine that's not true anymore.
Yeah. So anyway, if you're like me and you had that game on your fantasy team, I'd play taps for you right now because I don't think it's going to happen. Play taps for myself because I don't think it's going to happen. But to me, this was kind of like the final chance. It's like, if you show it at Gamescom, you can release it a month or two later. That makes sense. Not showing it at Gamescom, the chances of it coming out this year.
It's not coming.
Yeah. I'd put it at like 10%. So it looks like another year gone by without Hollow Knight Silksong.
Another chance for Jeff to show it at the Game Awards.
Yeah.
And then we'll see.
And then tease it for March or whatever of next year. Tease it for
March, and then it'll be June. We're like, where's Silksong?
Yep. Next up, someone requested it, and we're delivering. Someone asked if we were going to talk about Dragon Age in episode 400, and bam, here it is. We are going to talk about Dragon Age. They just announced the release date for Dragon Age, the Veilguard. It is coming out on Halloween. Again, another game in October.
Barely.
I mean, but it is still. There's like 2 or 3 big games launching on Halloween.
What are the other ones?
They're not going to. They're horror games. They're not going to compete with this as far as like mind share. But they're pretty big games that are releasing. I mean, throughout the whole month, honestly. October is just a banger. It's a really, really good month for games. So I don't know why you wouldn't just push this to like the second week in November where you got a clear launch pad. I don't know. I
think it does have a clear launch pad. There's nothing else competing with this.
I mean,
you don't want to be after Call of Duty.
You're competing for dollars.
I don't think.
It is after Call of Duty. Call of Duty's in October.
Is it?
When's Call of Duty? Not in November. It's the 20th or something like that.
I don't know. I can't. I don't know what these other games on the Halloween are.
Well, there's Silent Hill 2, which I just talked about, and there's a couple like smaller like AA-ish horror games.
I don't think any of those matter compared to Dragon Age. The Dragon Age is. I mean, hopefully it's bigger than it even was, but Dragon Age is a 800-pound gorilla in and of itself. It's BioWare's best-selling franchise of all time. And I think it's going to get a boost from Baldur's Gate 3. Like, if people are going to be about ready for another hit. I mean, it's not going to be the same kind of thing. It's going to be more story-driven, linear narrative. But, like, people want their fantasy hit. And I think this could ride those coattails pretty well. And they need it. I mean, they need to sell 10, 15 million copies of this thing. Like, it's crazy.
And I think they probably will, provided it's not bad.
Yeah.
But we don't know if that's the case. I mean, it's BioWare. It really sucks that we can't trust BioWare anymore to deliver good games. I mean, that's kind of crazy to think about. Again, if you go back to that montage of GameFace, go back to those first couple episodes in our first studio, and if someone would have walked in and said, you know what, when you go to do episode 400, you won't know if BioWare can make a good game or not. I'd have been like, whatever.
Also, the next Dragon Age will be about to come out.
It'll be 10 years because Inquisition had just pretty much come out. Yeah. It's that would have blown my mind more. And you know what? You won't play another one until episode 400. Mm-hmm. That's and we're not. It'll be 410 by the time we get there. Actually, by the time we get to October 31st. So.
Delfino, Dragon Age has not really sold 10 million at launch or anything, but Dragon Age is the best-selling BioWare series.
Yeah.
It outsold Mass Effect.
It has legs.
Inquisition, in particular, did very, very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, one thing I will say, obviously, is Halloween is an easy date to remember. So, as far as marketing, as far as that is concerned, that does help. Because you just it comes out on Halloween. Everybody knows Halloween. So I do understand at least part of the tactics of why they decided to release it on that date, but I still think it would probably do better if they give it a little bit more breathing room from a lot of the other big games in October. But regardless, I think it will do just fine. Next up.
Metaphor Refantasio versus Dragon Age might be another Baldur's Gate 3 versus Starfield. No. Those are not related.
It's a new IP. Baldur's Gate, I mean, some people
also,
may say...
Metaphor is going to be strongly limited to the anime crowd.
Yeah. I'm kind of excited for it.
I would have forgotten it existed if someone hadn't mentioned it.
It's way under the radar. Yeah.
It is not really of interest to me.
Yeah, my guess is after that game comes out, they will never do another spin-off again. They'll just be like, nope, we're just going to go straight onto Persona 6 instead of...
Is that a spin-off of its own thing?
It's its own thing. But I
it's
mean,
the same
like,
people,
I'm saying steering away from Persona to do some
just
other
have that
project.
Team
just
Shin Megami
go
Tensei
right into the
release
next one.
Forever, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
But we'll see. Maybe Metaphor sells okay.
It's a cool, like, presentational style. But
yeah, I like the look of it.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't even really want Persona 6 at this point.
I'm not ready for it still.
I just look at it and I just remember the 100 hours I put into Persona 5 and I was so ready to not. It was like just eating chocolate for 48 hours.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm done. No more. I don't want any more.
Well, now there's been like 5 Persona 5 games, and now Joker from Persona 5 is going into Persona 3 as DLC. It's like, just let it go. Like, they can't let Persona 5 go. It's crazy.
I mean, it was a big hit.
It was, but damn. It's like, come on, man. That also was a game that came out around when we launched all this. So
yeah. But I mean, that was their breakout.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So anyway, Veilguard coming out on the 31st. Don't forget about it.
Metaphor might crush it in terms of quality. Metaphor is not going to sell what Dragon Age sells. Like,
even if it ends up getting like a 9.5 out of 10, it's still not going to sell as well as Dragon Age.
That's a niche game.
If for only the reason
to Dragon Age is as wide as it gets.
It will also have like a tenth of the marketing budget.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't have a chance. No matter how good it is, it doesn't have a chance to outsell Dragon Age. It just doesn't. Next up, we're going to talk about Black Myth Wukong here a little bit in the show. We're going to review the game. But there's some other stuff that have come out this week around the game that we want to discuss here in headlines.
Dragon Age is not very niche. It sells millions and millions of copies.
Very niche. I mean, you're not speaking from reality at this point. What are you talking about,
man? I mean, compared to Metaphor
Maybe he's saying that because it's been
Refantasia?
gone for so long. He just doesn't remember that it was a big thing when it came out. Because it was huge when it came out.
Inquisition was by far the 800-pound gorilla.
If you want to know how big it was, when we were building SIFTD, Brent and I, every sample image when we were working on how things were going to be laid out, every sample image was from Dragon Age. Mm-hmm. So the whole SIFTD in beta, pre-beta, before you guys ever got to look at it, if you went to the site, it was just all Dragon Age Inquisition. Just 50 different screenshots, like all over the website. Like, it was a thing, man. Maybe you just don't remember it, but it was a big thing. So anyway, it's definitely not niche. Nothing that sells 10 million copies is ever niche. So anyway,
it also won Game of the Year. Like, what does it have to do to not be niche? At that point?
I don't know.
Compared to Metaphor Refantasia, come on.
I think they're just rooting the game on. Yeah, I think they just want it to do well, and that's fair. But yeah, you're being a little delusional, I think, about it.
For one thing, I can remember the name Dragon Age.
Yeah, that's true.
Veilguard's a bad.
The subtitle is what? Refanzio?
Refantasia
or something? Like that. Yeah, I can't remember it. I remember Metaphor.
It's very square. It's a little infinite on Discovery there.
Yeah, a little revengeancy.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Black Myth Wukong.
Which also is kind of a weird title.
Yes, it is.
Like, I understand where Wukong comes from, but
Black Myth? What? Where is that coming from?
I don't know. I thought Black Wind.
I haven't played enough to know. I don't know. I can't figure it out.
The mountain is Black Wind Mountain, so I thought, but I don't know what Black Myth means.
Yeah.
So it's
kind of built on a myth, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's built on the Journey to the West, the Monkey King story. Mm-hmm. But it's just one of those titles that just tells you nothing.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Especially if you don't know that the Monkey King's name is Sun Wukong.
Yeah.
So,
Well, so we're going to review it here in a little bit in the show, but there's something else that happened around the game this week. So earlier this week, influencers got copies of the game, and of course they were posting their gameplays and their Let's Plays and their walkthroughs and all that stuff like they always do. And it leaked out that in the contract what's the company called again that makes the game? I always forget.
I don't remember. Gaining Science or something like that?
Something like that. That company basically told all the influencers that if they accept the code and decide to post stuff early, that they could not have any discussion about feminism, about COVID, or about politics in their streams.
which is a good way. First off, it's a good way to make me not accept your code. Second, like, I wasn't gonna bring those things up, but now I am. Like, tell me not to do it, and of course I'm gonna. And like
it's like, what are you gonna do? Burn a bridge with this company? And what? 8 years later, when they come out with another, are they going to remember that I didn't follow the rules?
Oh no, I'm not going to get any of your other.
Are they going to look at my, like, not my, but I'm speaking from an influencer's perspective. Are they going to look at my 8 million subscribers on YouTube and not give me the code? No, they're not going to.
Well, a bunch of them just like. Bunch of people just like said no and bought it themselves and played it that way.
Right.
The top Twitch stream of it the first day it was out was literally titled "COVID-19 Feminist Propaganda." Like it was all the stuff you weren't supposed to talk about all in one line, and it was the most watched stream.
Why do you think they did this? I mean, other than just not really understanding how the industry works.
Part of that, and I'm sure part of it is just like, well, you talk about COVID-19, you get into the the Wuhan lab conspiracy theories, and
is this studio from Korea or China?
China.
Is it China?
If I remember right, it's China.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably some government grants involved, and the government gets to make demands about certain. I'm sure it goes all the way up to
because it's communism.
Yeah. Well, sorta. It's more just authoritarian pseudo capitalism.
That's a good. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's not the OG form of communism.
No, it's not anything Marx would recognize. But neither is any implemented form of communism that's ever been.
Yeah, that's accurate.
That stuff works on paper, but then you get a Stalin or a Mao, and it kind of like, that's really vulnerable to people wanting to take advantage of that system, isn't it? That's funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was. I thought that was pretty funny, actually. Also, I was trying to think of like because the actual wording is feminist propaganda. And I was talking to my
what is that?
I was talking to my sister. I'm like, I was trying to come up with like things feminists say that is not true.
Yeah,
it's propaganda, and I can't really come up with anything. And we didn't really have any.
I can't think of anything.
Ideas like
what would that be?
Like I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like I don't know what they're.
I mean, in China.
In China, it's sure. Yeah.
Maybe they're afraid that they'll give the code to people in China who will then say, "Oh, we treat women like crap here," or whatever. I don't know.
I mean, it might have just been their universal thing that they gave to streamers there and gave to everyone.
And they had to give to everyone. Yeah.
I mean, and just aren't aware that like we don't usually get that. No, I mean, you get some pretty strict embargoes, especially from Capcom, about what you can show in the game.
Yeah.
But they generally don't tell you what you're allowed to talk about.
No.
That's an unusual.
No. I mean, they're
also,
trying to shape the discussion.
Very funny to see the right-wing dipshits celebrate this because it said feminist. But I'm like, do you understand that nudity and fetishization is almost certainly in reference to how weird you dipshits were being about the girl in Stellar Blade?
Yeah,
like, they don't
that's
like
where
that
it's coming
either.
from. Yeah,
and but they're also excited. It's like, oh yeah, I'm almost like, oh look at the free speech crowd, all excited to sign away their rights all of a sudden because no feminism. Fucking morons.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're trying to avoid here. Nobody talks about COVID anymore. It's like water under the bridge for like 2 years.
It's a very strange, like it's literally Streisand affecting.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, you want now that's all people are talking about in relation to your game. Good job. I mean, I had someone note that like that he would not have heard of the game if this hadn't happened. And I'm like, well, it is pretty effective PR in that regard.
Actually, yeah.
It got everybody talking about Black Myth Wukong.
Yeah. Before they would not.
Right the week it came out. So
it could have been intentional.
I mean, it might have been a really slick PR move.
The no publicity is bad publicity play. Yeah. Where they're like, some people will rage on us, but they're raging on us.
Yeah. And it's probably not going to stop anybody from buying it.
Because they had the metrics. Like, I have the metrics on this game, and it was not doing great on SIFTD. Like, it was around average as far as views are concerned, based upon how many pieces of content are there. People weren't really gravitating towards it. Not like they were with Stellar Blade, that's for sure. Stellar Blade, I could see it, which is crazy how well it did on the website, and then it didn't sell all that well, ultimately. Which is kind of strange. I mean, it ended up selling 1 million. Which
because it's kind of a limited genre in terms of appeal, unless you're Dante, and like it looks like an it's just like the whole thing was just look at her tits and ass, like there wasn't a lot of game there for most people, I think, and it was limited to PlayStation. And was it on Xbox? It was on Xbox.
No, it's coming to Xbox.
So it's just PlayStation.
Yeah.
So not super shocking.
That was one of the announcements. Actually, no, Stellar Blade coming to PC was the announcement at Gamescom. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's actually announced for Xbox yet. I don't think it is. Yeah.
So I guess you're gonna head up. I mean, the PC thing is just gonna be okay. Just nude mods up and down.
Oh man.
I mean, there will definitely be some double dipping on that one from a certain crowd, but I think it's pretty obvious that crowd is not enough to make something a bestseller.
Yeah. I mean, it sold 1 million, and that was pretty much all it sold. So, anyway, very strange when you have kind of
doing much better.
It will do much better, yeah. It's very strange how you have these culture clashes still every once in a while, where you get some of these developers in Asia that don't quite understand Western culture still, but the thing is like they're starting to make really good games. And so they need to figure it out. Like, they need people like us, the Duh Consulting Agency, to be like, no, you don't want to do that. Like, again, we could have saved them a lot of heartache unless it was, as you mentioned, intentional.
Yeah, apparently those are fairly standard Chinese contracts. Like, you're just not supposed to bring that stuff up, but, like,
man,
it just doesn't translate.
We are very fortunate to live where we live. I don't think we realize it. I think whether you live in America or you live in Europe, like, we're very spoiled. It's very easy to just get used to the life that we have and not realize how people have it in other places, where you can literally get in trouble for saying stuff.
Well, and hopefully that continues.
Yeah, let's hope.
Because
we're kind of teetering.
There's some folks who would like to change that.
No, you're right. Yep. So anyway, that's the cultural angle on Black Myth Wukong. And again, we're going to talk about the actual game itself. The other thing I would say too, Matt, is that it's encouraging to see the press just review the game for what it is. They're not letting this like tie into it or influence their reviews or their evaluations of the game. I didn't read a single review where they even mentioned it. So again, something the U.S. press does and Western press can do is that ultimately you can still have your editorial integrity while still having issues with some of the cultural stuff around it.
It's also very funny to play that game and be like, none of those subjects would have ever come up.
No, unless you
brought it up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, except, I guess, not feminist propaganda, but as far as I can tell, there are no women in the game.
I haven't seen any.
There are no female characters that I've seen.
You're right. I don't think I've seen one.
Unless there was, like, someone in a crowd scene early on, but, like, I have not encountered a female character.
I haven't either. Interesting.
I mean, everybody's animals, so
right.
I guess, like, maybe I wouldn't necessarily, but I haven't heard any.
Maybe they're actually looking out for women.
I haven't heard any female voice actors.
Yeah, me either.
I guess I should say.
Interesting. Next up, Final Fantasy 16, a game that we love very much here on GameFace. We praised it up and down. We were like, you guys should go buy it, and then y'all didn't. The game did not do very well sales-wise. Square Enix has admitted...
avoided it like it was Stellar Blade. What's going on?
I am curious, though, with you guys in chat. Like, if you did not buy Final Fantasy 16, why did you not buy it? I'm really curious why you didn't. Because we obviously loved it, and we told you guys to buy it. And usually you guys generally listen to us. Like, it's very rare that Matt and I will recommend a game.
I don't think there's enough people watching to move the needle on there.
No, I'm not saying that we would move the needle. I'm just saying that, like, we gave it a positive review. Everybody else did as well. It got great. It's like a 9 whatever review score, and people just didn't want to buy it.
As I think I've said before, I think Final Fantasy is just kind of done.
Yeah.
Like, it's an old person's series.
Yeah.
It went irrelevant for a long time. They wasted 10 years on that lightning bullshit. And, like, the kids never really picked up on it. They grew up on tablets and things. And, like, I think basically if you're under 40, you probably don't really give Final Fantasy the time of day too much.
Let's look at chat because people are replying to this. They're really replying to it. Okay. Next to Twa says not my kind of game. Erebus Jones says it wasn't on PC or Xbox. Okay. By Mindex also not on PC. Delfino says some didn't like the faux Game of Thrones. I don't know why that would be.
I mean, I understand not wanting to ever be reminded of Game of Thrones again. But it did it better in a lot of ways.
So Commander Fed just says not for me. Like, what does that mean? Like, why was it not for you? Do you not like RPGs? Do you not like...
Maybe you don't like...
action games?
Well, maybe you don't like RPGs that are just action games with stats bolted onto them.
Yeah.
It doesn't really do either thing super well. It just is sort of a more than the sum of its parts thing. I mean, it kind of has the same issues as like the Final Fantasy VII remakes, where I'm just like, I don't like this combat system very much, and it can kind of devolve into a damage spongy thing sometimes, especially the boss fights. Didn't bother me as much in 16, partly because I actually cared about what happened in it. But like, I get why people are sort of turned off. It's like you're not really satisfying the action fans, and you're not really satisfying the RPG fans, because it's like you should probably pick a lane. Like, either make Final Fantasy games into Devil May Cry, or make Final Fantasy games RPGs. Like, pick one.
Ashes in the Hourglass says, I don't need a 40-hour-long Devil May Cry game.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. I mean, I thought it was very weird that, like, if you'd gone back to, like, 2001, when Kingdom Hearts 1 came out, and told me, like, hey, in the future, every major Square game is basically going to build on this weird combat system. Like, this is, you know, we're going to pick from a menu while you're trying to maneuver around and hit things with a sword and do a combo in the midair while you're trying to select. It's like... It's weird. It's weird that became Square's idea of how we move these games into the future, because I don't think it really worked.
I mean, the crazy thing is the vast majority of people in our chat are like, I'm waiting to play it on PC. They were waiting. A lot of people just saying, I don't own a PS5, or it ran bad on the PS5.
Mighty Pony Girl says, I dislike turn-based combat as a realism, but
no, it's not turn-based.
Final Fantasy 16 is full real-time.
It's full action combat.
It's an action game.
Yeah,
like,
it's not turn-based at all. Supermaster Gamer says they should have started a new franchise with Final Fantasy 16 instead of using the Final Fantasy name. Why?
I don't think that would have worked out very well.
I don't understand why. Final Fantasy has always been different.
All of Square's new games basically get buried by things. I can see maybe thinking it shouldn't have been numbered, but like it change up all the time. You know, nothing makes.
They're always different.
Nothing relates to anything.
Yeah,
in those
I don't understand what he's saying there. Big Smoke says Final Fantasy 16 was the first one I've completed since Final Fantasy 7 on PS1. I liked it enough to pick up Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, but I find it too weird and corny. Yeah, there's a little difference in tone there. I could see that.
I definitely see that.
Emperor Dread, thank you for Twitch Prime. Ashes in the Hourglass says more than Kingdom Hearts is Advent Children that influenced Square. I don't know what you're saying there.
Well, I mean, Advent Children didn't have a combat system, so
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, visually, yeah, like it around the same time is sort of like where they decided they were going to take the Final Fantasy look.
My peak Final Fantasy battle system is Final Fantasy 14.
All right.
Okay.
I don't know what mine would be. I mean, I guess 6.
I mean, it's 16 for me. It's the best action combat ever in Final Fantasy, and I prefer action combat to turn-based.
If you're going to cram that in, I guess, yeah. It's as good as they've gotten.
Yeah. As far as turn-based is concerned, I mean, it's just like...
I think I probably like Kingdom Hearts 2's better in terms of if you're going to go action combat, just general across the square board. I think Kingdom Hearts 2 is the closest they got to something really good. Mm-hmm. In part because the air game was better. I mean, obviously, I don't think you need to do a lot of air combos in 16. Like, that's not really the tone of the game. I don't know. For me, 16 I didn't feel like I was playing something made for 12-year-olds, which is a first for the Final Fantasy games in a long time.
I wasn't offended by it, yeah.
It's probably more made for, like, 16-year-olds, but that's at least closer.
It's better. Yeah. They're going in the right direction. But anyway, it is coming to PC. It is launching September 17th, so all the people in our chat who've been waiting all this time for Final Fantasy 16 to come to PC. Here it comes. My guess is Xbox will be announced next.
Probably. I mean, I would consider buying this again for PC. I think that I'd like to see what it looks like.
Mm-hmm. It'd be interesting to see what they do.
It was already a looker on PlayStation 5, and I'd like to see what it looks like at 60.
Yeah.
With everything turned up.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. But I don't really think I have time to play it this fall, so maybe I won't get it immediately.
No.
But I definitely will get it eventually. That's definitely a game I could see myself picking up in a Steam sale eventually and being
for like $25 or something.
Yeah, I'd like to try this again on PC and see what I can tweak and see what it looks like maxed out. Mm-hmm. I'd be into that.
And the mods and all the other stuff that comes along with it. Yep, cool to check out. So anyway, Final Fantasy 16 coming to PC September 17th.
Finally, nude Clive.
Just what I wanted. Next up, and this you may say, well, this should be in your discussion of Gamescom, but this story actually broke before Gamescom happened. It came from some guy named Nate the Hate. I've never heard of the guy, but apparently he's broken some news in the past.
I feel like I've heard that name before. I couldn't tell you what he's actually broken before.
But as you know, we try to credit people who break news here on GameFace. We like to credit the original person who did it, and that's what we're doing here. Nate the Hate apparently broke this story that Indiana Jones was coming to PlayStation 5. It's supposed to be an Xbox and PC exclusive, a big Game Pass game. And it is going to be exclusive to Xbox and PC for a little while because it's coming out, December 9th or 6th, I think, here for Xbox and PC. And then it's coming in the spring to PlayStation 5. Matt, what is Microsoft thinking here? Now, today at Gamescom, Phil Spencer did an interview where he explained the rationale. And basically all he said was, we're a business. And when you work at Microsoft, expectations are really high for profit. And if you aren't delivering the profit that the other departments are delivering, there's problems. And basically he just said it's because we're Microsoft. And you have to make a ton of money here or you get wiped out.
Well, especially because they spent all this money on these dev acquisitions, so now they got to deliver.
Yeah.
So you can't really turn down the money that will come from the PlayStation user base.
What does this mean?
I think it means that arbitrary first party exclusives don't really matter that much anymore in terms of how Microsoft plays the game, because revenue is more important than exclusivity. You're not really moving the hardware, and you're sort of you're more, again, moving more into the environment ecosystem thing than selling Xboxing. So why not?
So, but I mean, this was the idea was that these games come out day one on Game Pass to help people want to subscribe to Game Pass. Is Microsoft now saying we're going to have to rely on indie games and AA games to try to grow Game Pass? Because
no, I mean, I think this is the price you pay for having that day one option on Game Pass. You got to make money somewhere, and Game Pass is apparently sounds like it's hitting some kind of plateau.
But do you think people will sign up for Game Pass knowing that if they just wait a few months, the game's going to come to PlayStation?
I don't know.
I doubt it.
Who cares?
I mean, it's a big deal. Game Pass is one of the biggest paradigm shifts in gaming.
Well, here's the thing. I don't really agree with that because I'm not a Microsoft shareholder, so I don't really give a shit whether it's on PS5 or not. Great.
But it doesn't matter if you care. We're talking about the people who do care.
Who cares, though?
A lot of people do. A lot of people might subscribe to Game Pass for a month to play Indiana Jones. Now they're like, wait a minute, I can wait 60 days, and now I'm not.
You can wait 60 days and pay $70?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just pay $15 for Game Pass and get it now?
I don't know, because a lot of people don't. I mean, why isn't Game Pass... That's the same question as, why isn't Game Pass growing right now? Mm-hmm. I mean, exactly.
My guess would be that people cancel and resubscribe when there's something that they care about.
Yeah.
I think Microsoft was hoping that more people would just
stay
around forever. And once they kind of got rid of all those crazy deals, that stuff maybe stopped happening. We don't know the exact numbers on that, but it's still a better deal if you have the hardware. If you have an Xbox or a PC that can run this, it makes more sense to subscribe to Game Pass for a month and play the game instead of wait till the spring and spend full price on PS5, I would say. Otherwise,
I just don't think you're going to convince a PlayStation 5 owner to find some way to play this. They're just like, I'll wait 2 months.
No, I would.
You're not going to get any of those customers over to your side.
Well, I think if you already own the hardware for this, you already have
Game Pass. Most people do. Yeah. But the hardware is not selling, so...
Right. So, if you're just talking about someone who only owns a PS5, yeah, no one's going to buy a console for that.
But they might have.
Not numbers worth doing that with.
If these games never came to PlayStation, they might have.
I don't know if I believe that anymore.
Really? I mean,
it doesn't sound like Phil does either.
Here's the thing. I don't think anybody knows what to believe anymore, Matt. There's if you look at all these numbers, it's what do you take away from it? I don't know.
Well, there's nothing you can work with. I mean, if half the Xbox is sold this generation or the S, you can't really run this appreciably on that. So, what do? You can't cater to the S market because you can't put cutting edge stuff out that competes with your only competition, which is PlayStation.
And all the developers hate the S.
Yeah, because you can't cram stuff onto it.
Yeah.
And you already almost missed the boat on the biggest RPG of the generation because they couldn't get that to work.
Let's be honest.
Fucking listening.
They did. I mean, they missed the boat.
Oh, yeah.
For all intents and purposes, Baldur's Gate 3 is a PlayStation 5 exclusive.
Yeah. I mean, they got it out by the end of the year, so at least they pivoted,
but
it didn't matter anymore.
Yeah, the ship had sailed already.
It's just, there's a point at which maybe you just sort of give up, I guess, and be like, well, we've done what we could, and now we're going to go back to that old tried and true method of selling video games, on PlayStations.
I mean, that is kind of the takeaway here, right? Is Microsoft is going back to selling its exclusives.
Yeah.
That's what it's doing. It is hedging its bet on Game Pass at this point.
And it's you can either have our hardware or PC hardware and subscribe to Game Pass and get this stuff, or you can pay full price in a few months on PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like one way or the other. If you have everything, it doesn't make sense not to look at Game Pass, at least as an option. If you don't have anything but a PS5, well, it's still cheaper to pay $70 for this than it is to buy an Xbox. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. Let's actually check with you guys in chat to see what you guys think.
I would imagine their eventual goal would be to have Game Pass on everything.
Yeah.
But that seems a long way away given Sony's. I mean, if I were Sony, I don't know if I would allow them to do that.
Yeah.
Ever. I mean, they won't even do crossplay. What are the odds of them doing Game Pass?
I guess Nate the Hate was a big Nintendo Insider guy. Is that what they're saying?
Maybe. I just don't know.
Yeah. Big Smoke 82 says, I would buy the Master Chief Collection for PS5. It's one of the few games I missed from Xbox. It's interesting that you would want to go back and play those old games. I really don't have any interest in doing that.
I would play
old Halo games.
I would play Halo 1 through 3 again if I had the time.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't go past. I would play ODST. I'd go up through ODST and Reach. Beyond that, I don't really need to remember.
Yeah.
Halo.
Synthetic says, I'll play this on Game Pass because of PC Game Pass, which is still cheaper. It's like $11 a month for PC Game Pass.
Yeah.
Why? That also doesn't make any sense at all.
Probably because they know the competition's stiffer there.
Maybe.
And people are so addicted to having their stuff on Steam that there's probably people who would buy things full price on Steam rather than have them in some separate app.
Yeah. The Legacy says PS5 game sales are funding Game Pass. Yeah, I mean, they kind of are. They're supplementing like sales that they're not getting for Game Pass.
Obi-Wan says, we need competition in the console hardware space. If PlayStation is the only console player in the market, they'll be very detrimental. Yeah, I agree, but you know what isn't competition? The Xbox.
Yeah,
we don't have any competition in the hardware space right now.
It's over. The race is over. It was over almost right away. Sanuku says, it doesn't make any sense since the Ultimate Pass costs twice as much, and you don't get something to pay twice as much just to play it too on PC when they own an Xbox as their primary gaming tool. Top of that, there are not all the games on the PC Game Pass, so you get less for more. Kind of stands against your theory.
Yeah, there is a little bit about that. Yeah, there is a smaller selection on the PC version of the Game Pass.
Is there? I wasn't aware of that.
A little bit. Not everything is Play Anywhere, so
okay.
Yeah, there is a little limitation there. It's not common, but sometimes you can notice it, I guess. And yeah, Retro Modern Gamers, right? It does. Xbox does have some Sega sense to it right now.
I mean, let's be honest. Xbox was kind of like the new Sega.
Yeah, I mean, Sega jumped a lot of their stuff to them. When
Sega left, Microsoft and Xbox filled the void.
Yeah,
lost by Sega's consoles.
But there is definitely that sort of you can. There's a scent to the Xbox Series X that isn't dissimilar to the Saturn and the Dreamcast. Like there's a scent of inevitability to what's happening with Microsoft right now. It might take a couple more generations, but it doesn't feel like if there's going to be someone really pushing Sony to, because like, look, Sony felt comfortable enough with their position and their lack of competition from Microsoft to basically take a year off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's what happened. Yeah.
And it didn't fucking matter. It didn't do anything. Like they're still winning. Like
I know, it's crazy. I mean, it's more than a year, really. It's dragging on.
But specifically 2024, if you look at PlayStation's schedule, there's just
nothing.
There's one surprise hit from Helldivers.
Right. And nothing. And now we're waiting for Concord, which comes out today. Is that right?
Something like that. I saw a thing from, I think it was the one of the lead character designers or something. They've been working on that game for 8 years.
What?
8 years. What is happening?
They're not getting their money back on that one. I'll tell you that.
I mean, it's a pretty small team, so it's not like putting the Witcher team to work for 8 years.
Yeah.
But like 8 years.
I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. MySkew says that I've played games on Game Pass and bought them on sale from Steam when I could. Lies of P is an example. Yeah. So it has. But see, that's the thing. You played it on Game Pass, then you went and bought the game on Steam. So it didn't help Microsoft at all. Mitchell Ness says most games I've bought on Xbox aren't Play Anywhere. Okay.
That is the thing. If it's not Play Anywhere, I've got a bunch of those like that I have on Xbox and I don't have on PC. And I usually don't realize that until I go to try to install them on PC and realize that they don't apply. And that's annoying. Now, granted, I bought most of those before I had a PC that could run them, so I wasn't paying attention then. But now I do pay attention to that because it's frustrating.
Rock and Roll 458. At this point, Microsoft is in a deadlocked position. It needs to pivot to Game Pass, but now people don't buy games and hardware isn't selling, so no one buys an Xbox. So console sales are down, so less Game Pass subscribers. Yeah, and that's exactly why it's trying to get Game Pass on everything. That's why it's trying to get it on TVs, on Fire Sticks, on Roku, because it knows what's going on. It knows better than anyone that nobody wants to buy its consoles. Yet, they're about to release 3 new ones.
Yeah,
and they're working on a new next generation one. So
Mighty Pony Girl is correct. Like, I don't know how the Game Pass does as a library manager, but I'm always suspicious of people who enter the market. Well, now I can't read the rest of the thing.
Oh, it's up there.
Search of the market with the sort of we're going to piss money away in order. I was reading the Monitor.
Yeah.
We're going to piss money away in order to corner the market strategy. Yeah, well, ask Tim Sweeney about that because it didn't work. None of that worked.
Yeah, we're actually about to talk about Tim Sweeney and Epic Games Store in a second.
Like throwing money at stuff worked for Sony, but like to get into the console market in the '90s, but like it doesn't seem to work again. Like I don't know how you dislodge the 25-year-old tick that is PlayStation brand. Like that is basically, I don't know how you get rid of that.
That's the job, isn't it?
I don't know if you can do that. It's like saying like, how do we dislodge Nintendo? Like Nintendo and PlayStation are words that mean video games.
Yeah.
And I don't until Sony decides they don't want to do it anymore. That's it. Like I don't know what you're going to be. A third place also ran, no matter who you are. Even if Microsoft drops out of the market, and it's like, okay, you want more competition. Who's going to step up for that? Who's going to do that? Like Elon Musk decides he wants to spend $44 billion on doing that and failing this time.
Right.
Like what? Like who does that?
Yeah.
Like you're
Nobody
literally
does
saying like, I want to be third banana for nothing and no reward and just struggle against these two monoliths. Like there's no way around it. Like what do you?
I think Xbox is still making money.
Yeah, but it's probably I think
it's all from Game Pass.
I think Phil Spencer like does sort of intimate though, like it's still making money, but is it making enough money?
It's not making Microsoft
please,
money.
Yeah, to please the masters.
Right.
Like you're making profit margins that are like rounding errors to the main the Windows market.
Yeah. And the Office 365 market and all the other stuff that Microsoft makes all its real money from. So, yeah, it's in a bad position.
Somewhere the Microsoft Edge team is very quiet in the corner.
But we knew this all along. Like, Microsoft has always been this way. It's always sold Windows. It's always sold Microsoft Office. Like, when it started Xbox, it was like that then. It's like that now. So... It's not like Phil is like, all of a sudden, they're like, damn, you need to make a bunch of money.
I mean, we're a quarter century out from Bill Gates's, decree of, take the gaming market, whatever it takes.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that was his directive on the Xbox project was we need to control interactivity.
Yeah,
and
because he could see the future coming.
He did, and they made a foothold with a 360, and then they blew it.
They blew it
real hard
with Xbox One.
Ironically, by having it. A lot of the people that I think are going to call the shots over Phil now are the kind of people who took the reins for the Xbox One design.
Because what happened was Xbox 360 blew up, and all of a sudden the other people were like, hey, maybe I can get in on that. And then we get the press conference where they say TV 85 times.
TV, ESPN.
Yeah, and that was, it doomed Xbox.
And then they threw the slower RAM in so they could handle all the weird features they wanted to cram into as a set-top box, and we got one of the most underpowered consoles we've ever had.
Yeah, particularly from Microsoft, which used to be known for having the most powerful console. So anyway,
even at their own detriment.
Yeah,
because that original Xbox was a powerhouse, but it could sink a boat if you dropped it wrong.
Break your foot if you drop it on your foot. So anyway, that's the latest on Game Pass and Xbox in general. I don't really know what the hell's going on over there. It doesn't seem like any of us do. We all have ideas and conjecture, but we don't really know. It doesn't sound like Phil knows. No, that's the crazy part. He's like, I got people breathing down my neck, bro. That's really what he said.
I mean, my prediction is that this sort of shuffles along for another couple years, and then Phil steps down or is told to step down. And they replace him with someone else who comes in and says, we're taking all this shit back, and if you want to play Call of Duty, you're going to buy a fucking Xbox.
They should have done it anyway.
They're going to get some ruthless corporate person's going to come and be like, all this stuff that's been... No, it all come back in. Game Pass is going away. You want to buy a video game, you're going to pay $70 on an Xbox to play Call of fucking Duty.
Yeah. I mean, that's...
And, no one's going to like it, but that's
That's how
if
that's
you
how
want to
it's
be
have to work.
competitive, that's competition.
That's what they have to do. Yep.
Take Call of Duty away from PlayStation.
Yep. So Matt just teased this, segued to it nicely. Our next topic is about Epic Game Store. This week, Tim Sweeney admitted that exclusive games, basically them signing games that you can only buy and download on Epic Game Store, has not done anything for them. But what has really moved the needle for them instead has been giving games away. Shocker. You give games away, people will come and sign up for your service. When they first started this, though, Matt, I would have said that giving games away was a losing proposition, because you're just giving away $20 every time you give one away. But all they care about is user acquisition on Epic Game Store, and you're going to get it. If you're giving away, and let's be honest, most of the games it gives away on a weekly basis, I don't even bother claiming.
No, I have tons of my library on Epic Game Store is like dozens.
Yeah, because you also get them
all free.
Also, by the way, if you're subscribing to our channel with Twitch Prime, when you go to Twitch and you've connected your accounts, you get tons of free games there. That's another reason why you should be helping us out with Twitch Prime, because once you do that and you go to give us your sub, you will see a highlighted icon. If you click on that, Amazon's giving you like 20 free games.
Because I was trying to think of, like, I think I've bought like 3 games on the Epic Game Store in all these years. I bought Rebel Galaxy Outlaw because it was only on Epic for the first year.
Yeah.
And I bought Avatar, and I bought the new Prince of Persia. And I think those are the... And I bought Mech Warrior.
I'm surprised you can even remember which ones you
Those
bought.
are the... because it's so unusual to buy something from this store. Not that I have anything against the Epic Store. It's just... I use Steam.
All the games that I have that I didn't get for free on Epic Game Store is code that a publisher or PR
and I will
sent me.
I will have Star Wars Outlaws on the Epic Game Store because it's only on there.
Yeah.
Ubisoft stuff is only there. I'll probably have Assassin's Creed Shadows on there because I don't really care that much where it is. But it's like, I'm just generally, if it's available on both, I'm going to buy it on Steam because it's not usually going to occur to me to open the Epic app, frankly.
Right. It drives me bonkers by how many notifications it sends to my
and
desktop.
they never close.
I need to turn them off somehow. I haven't figured it
you
out
open
yet.
the app and all those things pop up in the corner and they never go away. You have to close them manually.
It's
I'm
annoying.
like, what the hell are you doing?
Folks, I'm sorry that we can't get to all your comments. Our chat is just like exploding, by the way. Like, you guys are being awesome today. You're really like working with us on these topics. I wish we could just sit here and just chat with you guys all day long for episode 400, but we have so much stuff to get to. I just want to let you know that, like, I'm seeing what you guys are typing. I don't want you to think it's just going into the void, but unfortunately, we just can't read them all. There's just so many. Now you guys are talking about all the different exclusives and stuff, but I think overall, like, what we've all figured out at this point is that it doesn't work. Like, the whole, like, paying money hatting for exclusives on PC, it's not working. And I think a big part of it is that there are so many more games available for PC than there are for consoles. It's like, it's not like each game matters as much on PC as it does on console.
Yeah, PC players seem much more willing to wait.
Yeah, because a lot of times you're going to get the better experience. Not always, but a lot of times
price.
But a lot of times you are, and a better price. You're right. So, and again, there's so many games.
If you'd waited for almost a year and a half to play Jedi Survivor, you're going to get a much better experience because they're finally supposedly fixing that on PC.
Yeah, I heard that.
Sometime in September.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
But, like, that took a while, didn't it?
I mean, it is kind of crazy, Matt, to think that in order for someone to compete with Valve and Steam, the company had to give away 2 free games a week for 5 years.
Well, then there were people,
and they're still not competing.
There were people calling out Randy Pitchford today about his predictions in 2019 that, like, because of Epic's approach, that the Epic Store was going to become the big competition, and like in 5 to 10 years we'd be looking at Steam as like a broke down, like, you know, creaky old store. And people are like, "How you feeling about this one today, Randy?" And he's like, "Well,"
he replied.
He did. He was like,
okay.
"Oh, there's a lot. It turned out to be a lot harder to predict a lot of this stuff than we thought." And it didn't. It's like, yeah, well, okay.
Okay, Randy. So anyway,
do not underestimate the power of the place. People already have literally 1,000 games.
Right. And my other question becomes, like, I mean, I go there and I get my free games when I'm actually interested in the game. I don't go back to buy the game.
No.
Like, when I'm going to buy a PC game, where do I go? I go to Steam.
To the point that I have accidentally bought things on sale on Steam that I already had for free on Epic Games Store.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't realize for months. I'm just like, oh, I had that game. Oh, well, all right, whatever. Yeah.
Well, for example, like, name that game. We give away a PC game if you win every week. And, like, I don't even think about going to Epic Game Store to get the game for you guys. I go to Steam, and then I contact the person who won. I'm like, what's your Steam ID? Because on Steam, you have to be friends with somebody to be able to gift them the game. So I have to become friends with you guys before, which is awesome. It's a fringe benefit of it. But I become friends with you guys, then I can gift you the game. It doesn't even enter my mind that I would do that through Epic Game Store. Because you just assume everybody already has a Steam account. And I do not assume that everybody has an Epic Game Store account. So it's an uphill battle for Epic, and it's always going to be. I don't see them ever eclipsing Valve.
No.
It's like a snowball rolling downhill. Steam.
I mean, I use GOG Galaxy more than Epic.
I don't, but
I do because I play older games. You know, like if I want to play X-Wing or TIE Fighter or any of the old Ultimas or any of these old point-and-click adventure games, which I had a phase of that for a while. Like I was like, yeah, that's all GOG. Like that's where I'm going to go for that.
Yep.
But again, offering something that Steam doesn't offer as easily to access. That's
Epic, your only chance, really.
Epic is just a one-to-one thing with Steam, except it doesn't work as well.
I mean, Steam doesn't give away any games.
No.
It just keeps growing, and it doesn't need to.
It doesn't even give discounts as well as it used to.
It really doesn't. So anyway, I don't know what it feels like to me. Like Epic Game Store is just a big money pit, a big hole that Epic just keeps throwing money into, hoping it eventually fills up.
Well, it's also funny that you can, Epic has the money to do that for 5 years before they realize, this isn't working.
Yeah. Because
there's no blood coming out of this stone.
Yeah, it's like they lost $3 billion or something before well.
Oh well.
It just shows you that Fortnite.
We gave it the old college try, boys, didn't we?
Even though we could have built a college with this money.
Yeah. It's like this little corner of Fortnite which is spilling off into the pool.
It's like the coins.
Oh no, yeah, hang on. Oh, that money's all wet. Oh well, burn it. Who cares?
It's hilarious. And then our final story. Actually, it's not our final story. We have 2 more stories for headlines in episode 400. So this week, remember the game Rollerdrome, Matt?
Yeah.
It's this crazy inline skating shooting game. We covered it here on GameFace, and we enjoyed it a good bit. There's really no other game like it, honestly. It is one of a kind. It didn't sell crazy well, but it did okay. But the twist is that this week, the developers who created this game have told fans to go and pirate the game because the publisher that published the game was bought out, and the new publisher, basically the contract says that the new publisher won't give the old developers any money for sales of the game. And so the developers of the game were like, you know what? Go pirate.
Go hoist the flag, mateys.
That's serious. Raise the Jolly Roger. Absolutely. They're just like, you know what? Go pirate this game because we're not getting a penny for any of the sales, and some jerk CEO who's already making way too much money is going to make all the money off of this. So how do you feel about this, Matt? Generally, we do not advocate. Yeah, we don't advocate for piracy here on GameFace, but in this case, maybe we're okay with it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's whatever.
This game has sold what it's going to sell as well.
Sold what it's going to sell, and it's not benefiting the people who actually made it anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It was almost I don't think he even seriously thought a bunch of people were going to pirate it. I think it was just almost like a thing. He's like, you know what? I'm just going to put this out there. I don't.
Yeah, we don't care if you do that.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Nothing that happens with this game is going to help any of us anymore.
Or is it going to help the rich CEO either? Because this game's day has come and gone.
It's a strange purchase one way or the other, I guess.
Yeah.
In terms of IP, I assume it came with a bunch of other stuff.
Right. Yeah. It was just bundled in with the acquisition or whatever, and that happens a lot. But it doesn't always happen that the new owner then cuts off the former developers from revenue.
That is, that kind of happened with Disco Elysium.
Mm-hmm. It did. Yep, that's a great example.
Although there's a lot more. That is again, I will say it every time. Go watch the People Make Games documentary about Disco Elysium. It's 2.5 hours, but it is one of the most fascinating and sordid tales of just corporate malfeasance and complete personal betrayal you've ever. It would make as good a game as Disco Elysium.
Well, oddly enough, the game ended up being great.
Yeah, the game was great.
Usually under those circumstances, the games suck.
Well, a lot of what happened there was after the fact, when they knew they had something and they knew they had money, because the people who made the three key people on Disco Elysium were anarcho-communists. Who, the instant there was actually some money to be made, they all stabbed each other in the back, and they were all sleeping with each other, and then the publisher fucked them all over on time. So it was like, we're all gonna fuck each other over for like a piece of this pie, and then all of a sudden somebody ate the pie, and they're all just sort of stuck there staring at each other, and it's amazing. It's way more detailed and nuanced than that, but like that is essentially the Cliff's Notes, and it's amazing.
Wow,
it's amazing.
I will check it out. I haven't watched it at all.
I mean, obviously we don't know because they don't say these things. I am very, very certain that is why they were nominated for Best Creator at the Game Awards last year. Was that specific video.
Okay,
all their videos are good. Don't get me wrong. Quinn's is he runs a board game channel. He runs that. He runs his own RPG channel. Like, he does a lot of stuff.
He's a busy guy too.
Married to Lee Alexander.
Oh,
he's a very funny man. But he runs the People Make Games channel, and they do amazing work. And that is probably their magnum opus. So
we should be curating more of their stuff on SIFTD as well.
They post something about once every 6 months.
Yeah,
because they are really making films.
Mm-hmm.
Their videos they put out are produced films, but they are remarkable thing. They have another video on there that's not video game related, but is about the biggest gaming trend in China, which is murder mystery, role playing escape roomy games that you go to these Jubencha, they're called. And you go. There's something like 30,000 Jubencha parlors in China. It is this gigantic multi-billion-dollar industry, and like 2 of them are available in English.
Wow!
And it's like there are places where you can go for like a whole weekend, and everybody. It's like a whole town that's all dressed up as this like. It's almost like it's like LARPing, but with more guided, and like. You know, if you're playing like a escape room or kind of a little like murder mystery, dinner party game here, you might get a little booklet about your character. There are Jubencha games where you have to read like an hour. Everyone sits there and reads for an hour about who their character is, and then you start interacting with each other.
Oh.
Like, go to People Make Games and watch their stuff. You will learn a lot of things.
By the way, if you're watching this B-roll, you're like, this game's freaking cool. Go pirate it.
Yeah, go steal it, apparently. According to the dev team themselves.
Because that is one of those games that like people may have never seen before, and you see it, you're like, what the hell is that?
Yeah,
like,
it's definitely its own thing.
It makes an impact for sure. So if you're watching this and you like what you just saw, that's called Rollerdrome, and you can go pirate it, and nobody will care. Not even the people who actually created it. So go for it. And then our final story for headlines in episode 400 is Until Dawn. Until Dawn is a choose-your-own horror adventure game where basically the task is to keep all your teenage friends alive. It is being remastered right now. And people are like, okay, it seems a little weird that you're remastering this game already because it's not all that old. I mean, what is it, like 6 or 7 years, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Roughly. I think it came out like 2018-ish.
Definitely pre-pandemic.
Around there, yeah. And so people are like, wait, does this really need to be remastered? Well, then they...
Kinda, yeah. It doesn't... You see what it actually looks like.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it will benefit from the remaster. But then the shocker this week came when they finally announced how much it is going to sell for, and they're selling it for $60.
Yep. I think this company's games are generally overpriced. Anyway.
I'd agree, yeah.
Like, I have most of the Dark Pictures stuff, but it takes them forever to drop to a price that I think is... reasonable
appropriate
for what they are.
They're usually worth $25 or $30 in my opinion. Yeah, and they always try to sell them full price. Well, this appears to be the tipping point for people who have been kind of complaining about how expensive remasters are. Nintendo, by the way, guilty of this as well.
Oh yeah,
we just played the Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, which was basically a remake or remaster, whatever the hell you want to call it, of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon for 3DS. And that sold for full price. People were pissed off about that. Nintendo's been selling its remasters for full price. I don't think people complain about stuff like Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 3 remakes because so much work is done on those.
Yeah, those are practically new games. Even if you've played the originals to death, they're so different that it feels like you got something new.
This seems to have kicked off the rebellion, though.
This is a very true to the term remaster.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you are just upping the fidelity and calling it a day.
Yeah.
and charging me $60
Yeah.
somehow.
And I don't think publishers are going to be able to get away with this anymore. It feels like sentiment has shifted, and people like us, consumers, are starting to reject these projects that are trying to get us to pay full price for an old game with minimal work done to it. So this could be finally the tipping point. Do you think this will change publishers' motives or ultimately their actions when they go to price this stuff?
Not really. I mean, I don't know why you'd price this at that. Like, it just doesn't seem like you're going to move many copies at that price.
Yeah, it doesn't seem smart.
Because that's the thing is, like, you got to figure out what people are going to pay for these things.
Yeah.
Like, would I have paid $60 for the remastered Beyond Good and Evil? No.
But
I paid $30.
Yeah.
Sure. Like, that's half the price.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, like, you're doing way less than half the work on these games. Like, you're doing, like, 20% of the work they did when they originally created the game.
This one in particular feels like you're just slapping in some new assets and calling it a day.
Pretty much. Yeah.
It's not like you're, I mean, at least Luigi's Mansion, like, really redid some things, at least, if only to make it playable on a Switch, right? As opposed to a thing with a touch screen and all, you had to be able to play it with a controller, basically. So there's something there to that. Just the fact that you can use a second analog stick makes a difference.
Yeah, it did.
But even that's not different here. This is just the same game with better assets.
Yeah, I feel like publishers are going to have a reckoning here.
Like, you want to add a storyline? You want to add an extra ending or two? Like, that would be interesting. I might cut you some slack on that, but it doesn't. But then you'd have to find a way to get Rami Ismail back into the fucking booth, and that's probably part of why they're going to push the idea they got a couple famous people that weren't famous when they made this.
Retro Modern Gamer says they can always drop the price if it does not sell and let the suckers buy it at full price. But you're losing, I understand your sentiment, but you're losing the marketing window, the hype window, where you've spent money on advertising in print and on broadcast.
I doubt they're going to spend
not that much. Yeah. But they will advertise. They'll market it, and you lose that whole groundswell when you're waiting.
I mean, they're basically rolling the dice and seeing what they get. I think they're overestimating the appeal of their game here.
Oh, yeah. I agree. And to your point, it probably is a little bit of a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
There are certain genres I think people are more willing to plunk down bigger money for remakes and remasters than others.
And certain games. Like
just a beloved game in general.
Yeah, $60 for a remake of Resident Evil 4.
Or The Last of Us, or Last of Us Part 2.
I think we didn't hear a lot about the sales of the most recent Last of Us remaster. So I don't know how well that did.
I mean, that usually means it did not do well at all. That's usually what it means. So, as we always say, we vote with our money, and if we don't buy remakes and remasters for $60, they'll stop pricing them at $60. That's the truth of the matter. And I have a feeling that after this comes out, they will not ever do that again.
No, I mean, certainly not for Supermassive stuff. I mean, at the very, and also, like, this is probably the closest I would come to paying $60 for a remaster of anything they've made. Like, I'm sure as hell not paying $60 for The Quarry.
Right.
So, like, we'll see.
Yeah.
The new thing they announced looks interesting, but that's another Dark Pictures game.
Yep. Well, yeah, they have a brand new game they just announced at Gamescom. We're going to talk about here in a little bit. So, anyway, there you go. That's our headlines. And now it's time to hear from our sponsor, LS Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted. That's right, people. Craymass, dad ass at creamls.com/sifted. You can go there. You can figure out where to buy LS Cream locally. You can figure out where to buy it online. And in fact, if you're watching this show right now on YouTube, if you go down below in the description, we have a link down there for a bottle finder. You can click that link, put in your zip code. It will tell you exactly where you can get it or where you can order it so that it can get shipped to you. We love LS Cream. You should love LS Cream. It mixes with so many different things. I think another thing that makes it palatable to a wider audience is that it's not crazy, strong liquor. So if you're somebody who's like, I don't really drink liquor, you're like, I don't, because I drank vodka and it was too strong, or I drank gin, or I drank, God forbid if you drank some Jägermeister, which I actually like and a lot of people hate. But some liquor is really strong and sometimes it will turn you off to drinking liquor.
I don't like Jägermeister because I don't like licorice.
Yeah, I don't really like licorice either, but I love Jaeger bombs. Like if you mix, it's delicious and it really
flavor it almost anything else and I would be in.
I hate licorice.
You got some strawberry cream Jaeger. Let's see about it. Let's do that. Show me that.
But you mix Jaeger bomb in a shot glass with a little bit of Red Bull.
Chocolate milkshake Everclear.
That actually sounds good. But if you mix it, like, it takes the edge off of the Jägermeister, and then you mix the liquor. With Jägermeister, makes you a little crazy anyway, and you throw in a little bit of Red Bull in there, it's on. But anyway, a lot of people can't drink hard liquor because it's too strong.
That was the aughts at G4 for you, right there.
Pretty much. Yep. But anyway, that's what's awesome about LS Cream is it mixes so well with so many things, and it's not like you take a sip of it and you're like, ugh. The alcohol is very, very subtle. Like, literally, you can put, like, a dollop of it in your coffee or whatever, and you hardly even notice that it's there until you finish a cup of coffee. You're like, oh, I feel a little buzz. Like, I love LS Cream. You should love it, too. Go to creamls.com/sifted and get your own bottle. And with that, it's time to get on with the show proper. We're going to kick things off, obviously, with Gamescom 2024. One of the big reasons why we're doing the show today instead of yesterday was we wanted to make sure we got all the big stories from Gamescom into this episode. Also, I should mention, next week's episode, I did put it out there on social media, just a reminder to those of you guys here live on the show. Next week's show is on Monday, so just don't forget that. We'll have 2 weeks in a row of not doing the show on Tuesday. So don't forget, next show, next week on Monday, and not Tuesday or Wednesday. But anyway, the reason we delayed today's show was for Black Myth Wukong, but also for Gamescom, because Jeff's big thing was going down yesterday at the same exact time we would have been doing this show. First of all, am I accurately describing Jeff's thing as a big deal?
What?
Yeah. I mean,
in comparison to the rest of Gamescom, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest thing at Gamescom, but now that you've watched the whole show, am I overbilling it as a big event?
Well, I didn't even watch the whole show.
Oh, you didn't watch it?
I watched the last 45 minutes because I forgot about it until some people were talking about it. Then I went back on SIFTD and watched all the videos on their own, which took much less time than watching the whole show.
Yeah. By the way, like I said it earlier in the show,
I'm not going to sit through all that over and over. There's not even any fake awards to give out. I mean, who cares at that point? Like, the fact I'm just sitting here like... these things aren't going to grow any further until he stops insisting that he hosts them.
Yeah.
Because you can't keep showing these high-end, super deep, super cool trailers and then coming back to like, wow, look at that. That was amazing. Here's a softball question that leads directly into your next bullet point, developer. It's like... Well,
the girl that they had on the show I thought was really good.
She was good.
And she was from Germany, I believe.
Well, that's what I'm saying is he is cultivating this younger and more vibrant talent, and he should just let them host the shit.
Yeah. I don't know why he wants to either anymore. Like, why?
I mean, that seems pretty obvious to me.
Ego, I guess?
Constant ego, and if you're going to put all that time, effort, and money into this thing, you want to benefit from it by having your face up there.
Yeah, but
at a certain point, though, you got to step back and kind of be the elder statesman.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
You gotta,
I mean, he's got all that already. He's got his flowers like 5 times over. Like,
and there's some. I mean, I'm sure there's some hope that like there's kids that grew up watching Jeff Keighley presented things their whole lives and associate him with like an event of a gaming presentation. But even Jack Nicholson doesn't go to the Oscars anymore.
Yeah. Again, it was just way too long. It got to like the 90-minute mark, and I was like
2 hours.
It was 2 hours. Yeah. It got to the 90-minute mark, and I was like, dude, just end it right here.
I came in right around when Molyneux came on. So I saw the rest of it after that.
Yeah. I mean, look, he got pretty much all the best stuff at Gamescom.
Yeah, I mean, for whatever.
Just for this year, that's the best as it can be. I saw a couple comments on SIFTD about it. People were discouraged. They're like, man, if this is like all the big hot games that are coming for the next 12 months, like, shit, I'm like not interested.
Well, it's not.
It's
There's
not.
Other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, Nintendo's not there. Sony's not there.
Right.
Game Awards is where you really debut stuff.
But I think to your point, that's the way people look at it, though. They're like, when they see Jeff up there, they're like, okay, He's about to show me all the hot shit that's about to come out.
But you gotta remember where you are. You're at Gamescom.
Yeah. I don't think people look at it that way, though. They're like, it's a big games convention, and Jeff's there. It's going to be awesome.
No,
and then
it's just not. The best we got in August.
Yeah.
Is what it is. Yeah,
that's what it comes down to. So I would say I think he did probably the best that he could. He got all the big stuff that is there.
I mean, he doesn't make the games. The game, what's there is there.
Yeah.
You got to show
and he also has to save some stuff for his real big thing that's coming in like 4 months.
Yeah.
So, he even mentions a couple times in this show, like, hey, we're talking about this and teasing this now, but to see the big blowout come back in December which, by the way, I think the Game Awards are December 12th this year.
And everybody, all the people making these games and promoting these games also know that way more people watch the Game Awards.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to blow it out at Gamescom.
Yeah.
That's going to be one of his biggest obstacles going forward. Is like he has obviously this, and he has the Summer Games Fest, but like, if you're going to pick one Jeff Keighley event to have your game in, you want to be the Game Awards because that gets way more views, at least according to their metrics.
Right. Yeah.
So, and if you're ready, it's like that thing where it's like if you're ready in June, you're half a year away from the Game Awards. Like, sure, like might as well show something now and kind of get some traction and some appearance. But now you're right on the edge of like, well, if we just hold it a few more months, we're in the Game Awards. So it's like, why
triple
would we
the
blow
audience?
it now? So I think that's Gamescom is always going to be a little bit
cannibalizing himself a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yep. But I would say that I think all things considered, he did a pretty good job. The show's way too long.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like his shows should be an hour and a half max.
They're all too long.
They're all too long. They're all padded with a bunch of stuff. For example, so let me just show you.
Game Awards was more reasonable length this last time, I thought.
Yeah.
It's still too long.
So here is the log. So when I watch these shows, I log everything. I go presentation by presentation, log it all in, take some notes if I need them, so when I talk to you guys about it, I know what I'm talking about. Here's the log from it, without any notes, pretty much. This is just the log of everything that actually happened. And then once I took out all the garbage and then added, in some cases, paragraphs worth of notes for each game, this is what we're actually talking about on the show today. If I didn't have my notes in here, this would probably be half a page. Mm-hmm. So we're still going to talk about 16 games, 17 games or something like that. So overall, I think it was probably about as good as Jeff could do.
You mean we're not going to talk about NetEase Animal Crossing clone crap?
Right there, NetEase Animal Crossing clone crap.
That is literally what I called it in the text message I was on.
Really?
When it aired.
It's in my notes.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I think that's what I said.
That is crazy.
Look that up.
If you really did, that is just uncanny. That just shows you how we're connected at the brains. I wrote NetEase Animal Crossing clone crap.
Oh, it was my friend was saying, like, sometimes when they go to he has the show over when that trailer was running. I said, no, it's still going. He said sometimes when they go to shit mobile ads, I think this is the post show. And I said, you got to save the NetEase Animal Crossing clone for the big finale.
No way. That's hilarious. Great minds think alike. So anyway, we're gonna blow out Gamescom.
He says, what if Animal Crossing was buggy and shitty to pay to play? So I'm like, yeah,
that's pretty much what it was.
Pretty much what it looked like.
Yep. But anyway, here we are right now to blow out what really matters about Gamescom 2024 for you guys. Again, I have about 16 games-ish that we're going to discuss. We're going to kick things off with, I would argue, probably was the biggest debut, Borderlands 4. The trailer doesn't give up much. And in fact, they didn't give up much at all about this game after it was announced. All we really know is that it takes place on a completely brand new planet. And I think you can probably gather that from watching this teaser trailer or whatever, that was the case.
I mean, that's good because Pandora has sort of been done more than it needed to be done, really. This is interesting because it looks like it's a Coruscant thing. Like, it looks like that's a very heavily populated planet with the big ringed cities.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you'll have a little more. I don't know. The worst parts of Borderlands 3 was running around the city parts.
You're right. I don't know. You're right. I was like, what is going on here? Like, why am I running around a city? Like, it just didn't fit like Borderlands for me anyway. I didn't think that it did. But this is pretty much all we get. It is a teaser, and there's going to be more very soon. The game is coming out in 2025, so it's coming out next year. And Randy's obviously involved. And you know, Randy's master plan, Matt, was Borderlands movie comes out a week and a half before Gamescom. Everybody loves it. And then we debut Borderlands 4, and people go bananas because they're riding the high from watching the movie, and then they see the trailer for our new game, and then the movie launched, and it was abysmal.
Whoops.
And now they're saying that it could come to streaming before the end of this month, Matt.
Yeah, that happens a lot now.
That's crazy.
A bunch of stuff has done that.
Really?
Couple things,
in like 3 weeks?
3-4 weeks, yeah.
Wow.
Like the stuff that really didn't do well in May ended up on streaming by beginning of June.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy. So anyway, this is all we get for Borderlands 4. It is coming next year, so my guess is at the Game Awards, we'll get a big blowout. We'll get like the first gameplay trailer of the game at the Game Awards. And then beginning in January until the game launches next year, we're just going to get inundated with Borderlands 4 stuff. So this is kind of the cool thing when they announce stuff late, is that you get like a barrage of marketing and trailers and gameplay pretty much in quick succession after the original debut, and I'm guessing that's what's going to happen with Borderlands 4. But again, right now, we have very little information other than it's on an all-new planet. So I think that matters, being on a new planet, because I didn't like the last planet.
No, I mean, they've wandered off Pandora for moments in 3 and stuff. But there's always been the threat of the promise or the threat, depending on how you feel about it, of like Randy's talked about border worlds as a possible future thing for the franchise.
Yeah,
which maybe that's what that is. I don't know. Like it looked like Pandora is basically infecting other planets with its bullshit.
Yeah,
in that. So
that's what it seemed like. Yeah. So we'll see. Again, it's coming next year. That was
I honestly couldn't tell you a goddamn thing about the lore of that series because who cares?
Somebody in chat, Emperor Dread, reminded me that the audience was silent after that trailer. It was silent after almost everything. The people at Gamescom were not having it.
Well, it's Germany.
I mean, after every announcement, they go back.
Very stoic crowd.
I thought that like they didn't mic the crowd at first, because he's right. After this was debuted, it was bone silent. And I was like, whoa, like, okay, they didn't mic the crowd. And then you heard like a smattering of like 5 claps. And I was like, they did mic the crowd.
And I guess bones are quiet, but it's a strange thing to complain about.
And then as the show went on, like there was hardly any applause for anything.
Nah, it was pretty
like the female host a couple times was even like, okay, like you guys didn't like that. Nope, they didn't. So anyway,
it's like watching that Joe Rogan comedy special that just came out.
So Borderlands 4 was the biggest debut, but also kind of the most disappointing. We just didn't get much out of it. I
mean, it's Borderlands.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about something that's over? You know, something like, who cares?
It does kind of feel that way. Although Tiny Tina did pretty well.
Tiny Tina did well, but Tiny Tina was different.
Yeah.
You know, Borderlands created a bunch of characters people liked, but I don't think people particularly like what they have to do with them in the Borderlands games.
Yeah.
You know, like running around doing the same fetch quest 4,000 times and every once in a while getting to talk to Sir Hammerlock because you like him is like not really enough of a breadcrumb trail anymore. You know, you might want to do a little more with it.
I agree. And then in my opinion, probably the second biggest thing, although probably by Jeff he would say it was the biggest thing, was the first gameplay of Call of Duty Black Ops 6. With a single,
assuming you haven't already watched the entire game online.
Right. Yeah, it's all pretty much out there as we talked about in last week's show. Pretty much all the cutscenes from the campaign are out there. The multiplayer, you can actually play the multiplayer if you find it on your torrent. You can actually go and play it right now. There's like thousands of people playing the multiplayer for Black Ops 6. But this was the first official single player campaign mission that they have shown for Black Ops 6. It's did you watch it? Did you get to see it at all?
No.
So this is different. So the mission briefing here is something that is not typically in a Call of Duty game. Usually the mission briefings, I'm going to pause it right here. Usually the mission briefings in Call of Duty games, like you go
That's a good freeze.
It is. You go to this sterile like office complex where there's a bunch of generals sitting in front of a big like TV screens that say, "Oh, this guy is over here in this territory and he's bringing the drugs in and then the next cutscene is you on a helicopter flying to where they told you all the problems are. Then you land and you do your mission." This game previews the mission like this, like using these cinematics to kind of clue you in on important parts of things that you shouldn't miss, important characters that you shouldn't miss. This is a big upgrade. Because one thing that does drive me a little bit crazy about prior Call of Duty campaigns is a lot of times, like, you wouldn't know who the person is that you're looking for. Like, they just have their little name above their head or whatever, and sometimes you would forget their name. You're like, dude, and he like, shoots you or whatever. Like, this will make it much more obvious, like, who the important players are in each mission and exactly what you need to do to complete the mission. Now, the rest of this is pretty much what I expected because this does take place.
Tex Murphy, freelance photographer.
Well, the camera is an important part of this. It does like all kinds of crazy stuff. It's just like this old school 35 millimeter SLS.
A bunch of people, like, I remember when this was first going up, thought this was the new James Bond game, which I can see why you'd think.
I could absolutely see that, which is in development, by the way, by the Hitman team.
The Hitman guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have thought that because it's first person.
Yeah.
And they're not going to.
Yeah, they're not going to do that.
Those guys are not going to do that.
Nope.
Also, you're paying for the likeness rights to those actors. You are going to see that character model.
Yeah.
So.
But this mission is interesting because you're basically infiltrating this office complex to go in and get information, and then you need to get out. And I don't know if a lot of missions are going to be like this, where you go in, you do your thing, and then you have to try to figure out a way how to escape and get away. I think that would be kind of cool, because what happens at the end of this, I'm just going to jump forward a little bit. You can watch the whole thing on SIFTD if you want. Eventually what happens is they escape the building, and they get into this ballroom, and this scene is pretty freaking awesome, man. Like, the graphics in this, when they get into this ballroom, this was one of the things that impressed me the most visually from what I've seen of Gamescom so far, is just this whole section in this room, because the draw distance is there, all the stuff is going on, and eventually they get to the point where they fight all the way through this ballroom, and then they get on motorcycles. And they escape on motorcycles. And this is where it does get a little bit ridiculous, because...
Good thing they had fuel in those things.
This part isn't so stupid, but eventually they get outside, and they're fighting against armored vehicles on motorcycles. And of course...
But those motorcycles have the American flag on them,
right?
So they're extra powerful.
It means they're indestructible. So eventually they get out here, they start fighting people in armored vehicles and winning. Like, the people in the armored vehicles can't hit them. It's absurd. And I'll be honest, like, you don't...
It's pretty... If you ever have to chase someone who's on a motorcycle for the good of the world...
Just run them off the road. I mean, to be fair, they do try a couple times, but just shoot them as well. They're not protected. They have no armor, and nobody can shoot them.
It is very hard to aim in a moving vehicle. Like, that is a very difficult thing to do. The people on the motorcycles don't seem to be having much of a problem with it, but they're very highly trained.
Yeah.
You'd think the people in the armored vehicles are also highly trained, but they're not the player.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm not all that surprised that Call of Duty
movie.
has kind of hitched its wagon to kind of the extraction shooter thing, where it's like, you finish the mission, now you need to get out. Like, I don't think you have to go and, like, wait under a helicopter and, like, send your stuff up a rope or whatever. But it would be cool if, like, a lot of missions in this were like that, where you finish the mission, then you need to escape somehow. Who knows if it will.
I mean, exfiltration is a thing. Mm-hmm. Doesn't always happen in Call of Duty.
Right. Not
usually,
hardly ever.
I mean, the opening stuff usually does. You get dropped in. You got to find your way out. Get back on the helicopter. Fly away from the ship. Ship blows up. You know, like that seems like a pretty standard opening number for Call of Duty.
Yeah, the gimmick in the last game was open world gameplay, which ended up just being almost like a wash and kind of ridiculous. So if this is sort of the new angle for this, I'll take that over the weird pseudo open world stuff.
I appreciate what they were trying to do there, but it feels like...
Comes off a little ridiculous.
I mean, you could probably hone it into something over the course of like a few iterations, but like it doesn't feel like Call of Duty is forgiving enough to make that. You need to nail it every time.
It just doesn't make sense, because you're playing a campaign where you literally get hit with 3 bullets, you die, and then you get on a motorcycle and nobody can hit you. Like, anyway, I would love to be a fly on the wall for the meetings where they figure out like which mission they want to play live first and why they chose that one versus another one.
I'm gonna guess that's the first thing in the campaign.
Maybe.
I haven't watched the leak stuff, but I guess that's either the first thing or a very early thing, and it's their...
Because you are breaking the one guy out.
Yeah, and it's the first...
Who is like one of the lead protagonists.
And it's the first set piece.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's like, I'm sure the next 3 levels are much
be
quieter.
Slower, like a sniping mission or something. Yeah. So anyway, that's the first look at Call of Duty Black Ops 6 campaign. Also, by the way, next weekend is the first beta for the multiplayer. And if you are a Game Pass subscriber, you can get in on that beta, which is pretty cool.
I mean, I will play this when because it's on Game Pass.
Yeah,
so
why not?
There's that.
Yeah, at least play the campaign.
I haven't played a campaign in Call of Duty since World War II, I think.
Yeah, it's sitting there,
which I hated.
Yeah,
so.
and so did I, because it had those stories thing or whatever.
That was after Infinite Warfare, right?
Yeah.
The last one I liked was Infinite Warfare. The last one I played was World War II.
Yeah.
And I was stunned at how much I disliked World War II, because I like World War II. I'm a World War II history nerd. Usually I like those, like seeing how they realize those battles or simulate those things. And I just completely cold.
Well, that was that whole era where they were like waffling on whether Call of Duty was going to have a campaign.
Yeah.
Because remember there was Black Ops 4, I think, that didn't have one. Yeah. And they were fiddling with it, and now they're right back to the way it was. They're like, every game has a campaign.
And it's like I don't dislike the whole stories idea, because I didn't think Battlefield executed it very well, but I like that idea.
Yeah.
Battlefield 1 and the one after that, or I think it was the one after that, where they was like you played different sections of each war.
It was a little disjointed, but
like the idea of dipping into different areas to sort of give a better picture of the overall flow of the war itself was, as opposed to sticking you in the POV of one person.
Yeah,
that was a cool idea.
Yeah,
I just don't think anyone's ever really pulled it off very well.
I agree. Yep. Next up, in my opinion, the third biggest game that was announced at Gamescom, Mafia: The Old Country. Much like Borderlands 4, this trailer doesn't give up much of anything.
And this was the one more thing at the very end.
But since this trailer was debuted, 2K has supplied some more information about the game. It is coming in 2025 to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. And it does go back to the roots of the mob in Sicily in 1900, which is where my family's from, by the way. My family's Sicilian. I'm half Italian. Although people would argue that Sicilians are not Italian sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Especially Italians.
Yeah, exactly. But this does take place in
There's
Sicily.
also some Sicilians that would be mad at you.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yep. And basically the strap line that they sent me in a press release was, fight to survive in this dangerous and unforgiving era, with action brought to life by the authentic realism and rich storytelling that the critically acclaimed Mafia series is known for. It has a linear narrative and that classic mob movie feeling that fans of Mafia yearn for. So, basically, I guess the big news there...
Children yearn for the mob.
The big message there is that this is not like an open world, go anywhere, do anything.
This sounds
game.
much more like Mafia 2 than Mafia 3.
Yeah, which honestly, I think most fans do want
Probably
that.
I mean, I liked what Mafia 3 was trying to do.
Yeah.
It just didn't have enough variety to sustain itself.
I wasn't a huge fan of the setting either, honestly.
I think
it was different, but
I think more things should be in New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, I love that city.
It didn't feel very much like New Orleans a lot of the time.
It didn't feel very much like a Mafia game.
It felt like an organized crime game.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like, I mean, Mafia was... I mean, it wasn't, the mob.
Mm-hmm.
There was obviously some mob stuff involved. But
it felt more like GTA.
It was more like they were trying to stretch the Mafia idea to sort of encompass just sort of organized crime.
Right. Yeah.
Criminal syndicates, kind of in general. Mm-hmm. And you were establishing your own criminal syndicate in this area. And I thought it was an interesting examination of things. It was the setting was cool. Like you're a Vietnam veteran who comes home and kind of ends up sort of starting your own crime empire,
which
out of
not that far out of the realm of reason,
and also out of complete fury. Like I think it did a very good job of building up his family and his inner circle, and then yanking them all away. In the big tragic event, and then you're like, yeah, I'm with him. I was with him to get all this stuff done, but I just ran out of steam. I played it twice, and I just ran out of steam about halfway through each time because it's not easy. They had some challenge to it, and you had to do some of the side stuff to keep competitive, and it just got too much to handle. Whereas
I didn't enjoy it that much.
Mafia 1 and 2 were much more narrative linear stories that happened to have a big open New York City for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
You couldn't even Mafia 1 you couldn't even really do anything.
It was a joke.
And it was
like a fake open world.
It was all there, but you couldn't go anywhere.
You couldn't get out of the car and go where you wanted. Yeah.
Like very few missions allowed you to do that, and if you deviated from most of the missions, it would fail the mission. Mafia 2 did let you wander around and do some, but it wasn't very it was like kind of almost LA Noir level stuff. It's like, let's go find the hidden shit and go and come back when you're done, kind of thing. They've never quite found the balance on these.
It sounds like they're concerned about it. Like, if
Mafia,
that's the one thing that they included that actually tells you about
and then
the
Mafia
game.
3 went too far the other way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I do like these games for the most part. I'm glad they're still around. I'm glad Hangar 13 didn't get shut down.
They still exist.
I think they have a good team. They have a good head on their shoulders. Like, just they got to find that balance. And they're not even the first team to struggle with that balance for Mafia. This came from that Brno team in the Czech Republic, and those guys also didn't quite know what to make the game into.
It's a little weird making Mafia games in other countries.
I mean, The Godfather's a worldwide hit.
It is, yeah.
And that's one of the things that's interesting about Europe is when you're there as an American and like you find out what the things about American culture that speak to people there,
or the things that they get wrong.
The thing they get wrong. I mean, we get plenty wrong about.
Of course,
them too. But like, it's like they loved. There's a bunch of people loved Mafia stuff and love the weird. And
they love Snoop Dogg.
They love Snoop Dogg.
For a good reason.
Last time I was there, Lady Gaga was a big thing.
They love her too. Yeah.
Actually, I was there for Mafia 2.
Yeah.
Well, that was 2010. 2010. I was there to do interview. It was me and the Playboy team. We were there to do interviews at the Brno studio for Mafia 2, and everyone in Prague was Lady Gaga. Even the witch that toured us around the Black Magic City tour was all she wanted to talk to was Lady Gaga. I just loved Lady Gaga.
That's crazy. So anyway, that's Mafia: The Old Country, again coming next year to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. Next up, and we kind of talked about this already, but they announced the release date for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It is coming to Xbox and PC on December 9th. It is the 9th, not the 6th. Mm-hmm. And it's coming out in the spring for PlayStation 5. We're not going to talk about that story again because we already discussed it in headlines. Next up, Monster Hunter.
I will say that little trailer thing, Troy Baker was kind of hosting it thing, and he mentions that it's intimidating to play a character that so many people look up to.
Mm-hmm.
You probably shouldn't look up to Indiana Jones. You can enjoy Indiana Jones. Like, Indiana Jones is fun. Like, he's a cool character.
Yeah.
But he's a terrible archaeologist who fucked a teenager. And let's not look up to Indiana Jones. Let's
he's
just
also
enjoy
a grave
Indiana
robber.
Jones.
Yeah.
He's a grave robber. He's a very neglectful teacher.
Yeah.
Which the movie
the worst professor you ever had.
Which the movie seemed to acknowledge because he's at a different school every time.
Yeah. Well, Minority Games brings up a good question about Mafia. What kind of guns do you have in 1900 Sicily?
About the same as you have in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah.
You got Colt single action armies and
takes a long time to reload.
Shotguns and you're gonna have probably some fudged automatics here and there. Like you got some stuff.
It's not gonna be bereft of guns. Yeah.
No, but also it's the original the origin of Sicily in 1900 and that kind of thing. I mean, a lot of this is family versus family, and they weren't really fighting lethally until they had to.
No, you're right. They would fight with their fists.
Yeah,
beat each other.
I wouldn't expect to see. Lethal fights were pretty rare.
Yeah.
Up until they were necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when people had to start leaving the island. But you kill someone in Sicily, they send you to New York, and you kill someone in New York, they send you to Sicily to hide out for a while. I mean, that literally happens in The Godfather.
Yeah. Yep. Next up, Monster Hunter Wilds. Man, Capcom is whoring this game out every chance it gets. It's insane. Like, I get it. It is a huge cash cow for Capcom. It is maybe its biggest franchise at this point. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's be honest. It might be its biggest cash cow.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly either this or Resident Evil.
But it is taking this game everywhere and anywhere and blowing it out with big media. I would love to see the media plan for this game. They've been putting out a trailer every day for a new weapon for the last 2 weeks. They finally just finished that. And now here's this brand new trailer at Gamescom, which finally shows something other than a boring desert.
Yeah,
wow,
nice
some color in Monster Hunter Wilds.
Although, once again, I don't want to kill that big furry spider because I think it looks cute.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like this game.
Yeah.
I just don't like the go out and murder monsters for no reason other than to make a hat out of their face.
And then they did start showing off like the fact that it seems like there's going to be like multiple camps in this. It doesn't seem like
this very much looks like a very like a bigger, badder expansion. Not expansion in terms of an expansion, but in terms of like they are building on the Monster Hunter World concept in a way that Rises did not.
Yep. And
this looks like a giant game.
It does, man. I mean, just the fact that they can keep putting out a trailer like every 3 days, it just shows you. But finally, we got to see some color. We got to see a bunch of new creatures in this that we hadn't seen before. I'm not a big, crazy Monster Hunter aficionado, so I don't know if any of the creatures they're showing have never appeared in Monster Hunter before. But several of them I don't remember ever seeing.
No, a lot of this looks new to me. I'm not a Monster Hunter expert. Again, I wish I could like this game. I don't like the premise. I don't like the gameplay. I don't like the grind. I don't like I might buy a little figure of that spider. But like,
one thing they are doing that I think will help with this one, Matt, is that like one of the big problems for me was like targeting specific body parts. It's like you could try, but it's like it felt like it was just random whether you're actually hitting those spots. They focused on that for this game. Like being able to target very specific parts and actually be able to hit them was a big focus of the gameplay tweaks for this. And I think that's the right place to put the emphasis. So I'm glad to see that they're making some changes where changes need to be made, I guess is what I'm getting at. And the other thing, too, is like this game is coming out pretty early next year. You're just going to be completely inundated with this game until that happens. Like you're just going to get new trailers constantly. So it's the Capcom's biggest game, but I do feel like maybe they're saturating things a little too much with marketing for it.
This hasn't hit the mainstream marketing yet.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And it won't probably until a week before launch.
No, you'll start seeing ads on NFL games like 3 weeks ahead.
Yeah.
I could see this getting, bus wraps.
Yeah, and it is crazy that this game has broken through to the mainstream.
Yeah.
It's not just about us.
I would not have there was a time when Capcom was reluctant to bring this anywhere outside of Japan at all.
Yeah.
They thought it was a very specific Japan-only phenomenon.
And it kind of was for a while.
But they, I still feel like Monster Hunter World was still like playing underwater to me. It's still not good enough.
I feel like all Monster Hunter games feel that way.
Yeah.
I always feel disconnected from the combat. I just do. So that's the latest trailer of Monster Hunter Wilds. Again, it's coming very soon. We'll be playing it. Is it February?
I think it was February.
Yeah.
I got a whole giant Monster Hunter board game in that closet that I played once, and then my sister and my niece and I were just like, no.
Nah, this isn't fun.
I was like, maybe I'd like this outside of the context of a game where I don't have to deal with the controls. It's like, no. It's
no, I still...
Somehow they found a way to make you run out of stamina and unable to do anything for the rest of the game in a board game, too. Very impressive, but not really what I'm after. If anyone would like to buy a $500 Monster Hunter board game, I ain't shipping that anywhere, actually. Forget it. I'm just going to stay in there. It's going to
sit in that closet.
Sit in that closet until
somebody has to clean it out.
Yeah.
Next up, Civilization 7. We got the first gameplay trailer for Civ. We got to see what the new graphics look like. Huge upgrade. And the reason I know it's a huge upgrade is because when I recently built my brand new PC, one of the first games that I installed on it to play was Civilization 6. And I will admit, I was pretty disappointed at the visuals in Civ 6 when I loaded it up on my new PC. I was like, I don't remember the game looking this bad and this simple. This game, a whole new tier, visually. And then I think in this trailer, it was people were confused. They're like, what's the new features? Well, the follow-up on this was extensive from 2K. Like, they had previews all lined up with all the big outlets. IGN and GameSpot both put up huge, incredibly detailed video previews. In fact, IGN's was so in the weeds, I could only watch the first half of it. It got to this point where they were talking about stuff. I'm like, what the hell are you even talking about? And I play Civ, man. I was like, dude, you are way in the weeds. Like, I would like to see like the view stats for that video to see how many people were like me and got halfway through and were like, I'm good. But there's tons of information out there about this game. I mean, it has cross-play and cross-progression. The lead voice actor for the game is Gwendolyn Christie from Game of Thrones, and she also was in Star Wars. And that's important for Civ. The narrator actually matters for this game. And then they basically borrowed a bunch of stuff from Humankind, which we liked when we reviewed it here on GameFace. But it feels like Civ has turned into the follower instead of the leader. Like, you can change...
To be fair, the last time they tried to lead, it didn't turn out too great.
You're right, actually. That's a good point.
5 was a bit of a mess.
Yeah, it was a problem.
Until they fixed it with expansion stuff.
Well, the big thing here is just...
Civ 6 was more of a return to
form.
Basics. Kind of. It was
Pretty
like,
much.
okay, we're just going to give you Civilization.
Yeah.
There you go. And this one now they're going back to sort of like, oh, we're going to try to make it something bigger and different. And you know, but like, they probably are smarter to use that template a little more.
Well, basically what it does
Some of the stuff they're taking from Humankind feels like the stuff that didn't work in Humankind, though.
Yeah,
so
a little bit. But the thing that did work in Humankind that they have taken, and it's a big deal for them to steal it from that game, is that you can change the civ at each age. Mm-hmm. So as you play through the game, there's 3 different ages that you'll play through. At each one of those, you can switch away from the civ that you've been playing as. And again, that's a big part of Humankind. That was really the big feature of Humankind that set it apart from Civ, and now Civ just stole it. Mm-hmm. But I like it. Yeah, I like the feature.
You can't copyright gameplay.
Yeah, you really can't. As we'll find out when we talk about Peter Molyneux's new game, there's a lot of things that you can't copyright that you thought you could.
Yeah, the ancient name for Britain is not something you can copyright, it turns out.
That worked out for Molyneux. So this borrows a lot of stuff from Humankind that people liked about it. I mean, generally that's a good thing. It's just a shame to kind of see them turning into the followers instead of the leaders.
IS-1 on the Nemesis system is not gameplay.
Right.
It's content generation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's how they managed to pull that off. It's also the Namco did that once with mini games during load screens.
Yeah, that's right. That? Yeah, yep. Tried to. I thought that one was struck down, though.
That eventually was struck down, but they had it for almost 10 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. They got away with it for a while.
Because for a long time, when CD games started and like the PlayStation came out, it's like, oh, well, people just put mini games up during load screens and it won't matter. But then Namco copyrighted, so nobody could do it anymore. They patented it, so nobody could do it anymore. It's like there's a whole other timeline where Namco didn't do that, and we were playing mini games during load screens for like 10 years there.
Yeah,
but now it's just not a thing.
Yeah. So they borrowed that stuff from Humankind. Another thing that they're doing is because you can switch ages, your leader becomes like an avatar in this. Mm-hmm. Like you can have like Cleopatra or whatever, but then she's eventually like leading America. And so you earn like badges and upgrades for that sort of avatar. That's what the leaders become eventually, is basically your avatar in the game. There's a ton of changes. I could go on for like 20 minutes about all this stuff in Civ 7. The bottom line is it looks pretty freaking awesome. It is coming out on February 11th, and it is coming to everything, even Switch, which we'll see how that works. But it's coming to pretty much every platform on February 11th. This is another game that's going to be blown out hardcore over the next like couple months. However, I would say this, if you really want to know more, go to SIFTD.net and just search for the game title. And the previews that we have up there, you watch one of them, you won't need to learn another thing about Civ 7. It is all there already. Like, there's really no secrets left about the game, which is a little disappointing, but all part of their marketing plan. So anyway, Civ 7 coming February 11th to every platform under the sun. Next up, Dying Light: The Beast, which started out as DLC for Dying Light 2. They worked on it so long, they're like, this feels so different from the base game that we are just going to make it basically an expand-alone. So it's an expansion for Dying Light 2 that will live on its own and will be sold on its own. And it has guns, which obviously guns were not a big part of Dying Light 2. Here, it seems like they're almost the focus of it. So you get a brand new area with this, which is rural. If you remember, Dying Light 2 is basically all in urban areas. So there's a brand new area that's all rural. There's a brand new enemy that you need to fight that you play as the character from the first Dying Light. They bring him back for this, and he's on basically a revenge mission. So there's a very specific enemy that you're looking for in this. They've said it will last 18 to 20 hours, so it really is like almost a full game. I don't know. How do you feel about expand-alones, Matt?
It depends.
Yeah.
Like, I generally prefer if you integrate the game, the new stuff into the game. But like Dying Light, the first one also sort of outgrew its own pants. Mm-hmm. Eventually, like you had kind of the alternate maps and the place with a dune buggy. It's like, oh, you're just gonna go over here and drive vehicles for a while, and then you can come back to the city whenever you want. We're just not gonna fucking talk about it.
Yeah.
So I guess sure, why not? I wonder if there's gonna be any kind of interplay between this and like things you do in this. Maybe can kind of interact with what you have in the original. I mean, honestly, I don't remember Dying Light too well enough to even know what's different here.
Well, remember, it was all about, like, nighttime.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know what Dying Light is, but I just don't... Dying Light 2, I don't have a lot of specific memories of.
Okay. It was challenging, I
haven't played any of the DLC for that.
It's one of the few games that I went back and played more of after we reviewed it on GameFace. Like, I went back and still tried to finish it after we had already talked about it.
I've thought about it sometimes, but, like, I have it on PC. I got it for, like, some ridiculously Steam sale price at some point with everything. But I've just never installed, because it's like 80 gigs or something, and I was like, I can't spare that space while I still got, Cyberpunk and and all this other shit sitting on there
Mm-hmm.
because I know I'm not gonna load it up.
Yeah, Fire Native says he wants to hear the difference between the voices of Kyle Crane, who is the guy from the first game who stars in this Expandalone, and the new main guy from Dying Light 2. He feels that they sound very close. And maybe they are the same guy. Maybe that's a twist.
You're a different guy.
Yeah.
In Dying Light
They
2.
definitely look different. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, they do sort of have a generic man sound to them.
Well, it's like Troy Baker. Like, what doesn't Troy Baker voice at this point? Like, now he's voicing Indiana Jones. Like, it's insane.
I mean, if you have a dependable
The work that he gets.
I mean, to be fair, he's doing the best Indiana Jones impression I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean, he does a good job at it.
And like, if you get a dependable voice actor, you use what was it? I can't remember her name. It was a Japanese voice actress, just died, like a couple days ago. She's only like 61 or 62, but she was the voice, most famously, she's the voice of Major Kusanagi in Ghost in the Shell.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone did a collage of all the characters she voiced,
like, unbelievable.
every major video game female character you can
wow.
Even she's the Japanese voice of Lara Croft. She's,
oh.
The one Kain in the original Nier Replicant. She's like, if you can think of a kind of 30-ish female character from a game or a major anime, she was that character.
Wow.
Like the collage is something like 100 plus. It's just you can barely see everything.
So to your point,
and
when you find someone's good,
because she was really good.
Yeah.
And like, so once you think about it, you can hear like, oh yeah, that is the same voice kind of happening. But like, Troy can deliver.
He's used for everything.
Troy
it's
can
crazy.
do everything you need him to do for a certain range of role. He can do mocap. He can do physical stuff. He can, like why and he
seems to be good to work with.
He's good to work with. He's a very personable guy.
Yeah. And
he's going to deliver quality work. So like, why wouldn't same thing that happened with what's his name? His name I can't remember now. Nathan Drake.
Mm.
Oh
yeah.
That guy.
What is his name? How do we forget his name?
I don't know. He's in everything.
Yeah, you're right. He was the guy for a while.
I forget his name.
Chad, help us out. Nolan North.
Nolan North. I've met that guy like
Thanks,
3
Andy
times.
T.
Why do I
Monahan.
not know?
Yeah.
So he got cast because.
But he's disappeared. That's why we don't remember him. He's not like he used to be, where he's in everything. Like he's not doing as many gigs as he used to.
Troy is a little more versatile, I think. Although Nolan North also was the Penguin in Arkham Arkham games. He sounds nothing like Drake in that.
Yeah.
People just kept asking him to do Drake.
Yeah. The other thing that they compared this Expandalone to is Old Boy. Which, okay.
Yeah,
but with zombies, they said.
But with zombies and a monster? Okay. Yeah. Like, I don't... That's... You're sort of outside of the Old Boy.
That's what they said. That's what the developers said.
You sure you didn't mean the host?
Maybe.
There's a giant monster in that.
Maybe. Next up, Matt, is something that I was really excited by, and I think you may be bummed by it, but I thought it looked pretty damn good, and that is Batman Arkham Shadows. Arkham Shadow, sorry. I'm pleasantly surprised by what was shown of this, but it is a MetaQuest 3 exclusive.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
I'm not going to play it, and you're going to get sick. So
it feels like it might be the killer app for MetaQuest, like maybe the first ever killer app for VR.
It will not be.
No?
No.
It looks like a legit Arkham game.
People are barely going to realize this exists.
Yeah. Which is, I think it might be a shame.
Could be, but I ain't buying a Quest for it.
Yeah. So. It's coming out in October of 2024. They haven't given the exact date yet.
I do think it's funny that your villain they're showing off is the Rat King.
Yeah.
Talk about scraping the bottom of the barrel here.
Also, the trailer is funny. They keep talking about rats. It's like nobody cares about rats. But this game has turned out to be far more than I thought it was going to be when they first announced it. I really thought it was going to be one of those VR experiences where you just kind of walked around in Batman's world and maybe flung a couple batarangs.
That was the Batman VR game before. Right. So.
But this one looks legit. Like
this one looks like it'll make you sick much faster.
Yeah, oh yeah, dude, this would kill me.
Look at that.
I would last like 5 minutes playing this game, if 5 minutes. But again, it is not only is it a MetaQuest exclusive, it is MetaQuest 3 exclusive. Yeah. You have to have the latest and best MetaQuest to play this. Which you can obviously see from the visual fidelity, but it's going to hurt it, but that's kind of how killer apps are supposed to work. You're forcing people to upgrade, basically. But this game looks way better than I thought it was going to look. I really thought it was going to just be another one of those wander around in VR type games. And it is not at all. It is very much an action game where you do pretty much all the cool stuff that Batman does. But again, it is a MetaQuest 3 exclusive. Do you think maybe someday this might come to something else?
I mean, everything VR does. Really,
yeah,
so.
It feels like eventually there'll be a 2D version of this.
Except Half-Life Alex.
Right.
Really.
Yeah, which it's not over yet. It could still happen. But
It's
Valve
over.
is pretty stuck in its ways. I don't see that happening, actually. But I think that game's looking awesome.
If Sony didn't land that for VR2 launch, it ain't happening.
Yeah, it's not happening. Yeah. Robolist9 says there was a Batman VR game on PS4 VR. Yeah, that's what Matt was talking about, where it's just kind of like a walking simulator in Batman.
I don't even know why you stood there and
Yeah.
teleported from... Basically, it was a crime scene simulator.
Yeah, actually, you're right. That's what it was. So anyway, there you go. That's Batman Arkham Shadow, only for MetaQuest 3, coming in October. Next up, we got to look at some cool Starfield stuff that ended up being a stealth launch, a shadow drop.
Sorta.
It's a brand new buggy that you can use in the game. I initially thought that maybe it was coming in the Shattered Space expansion, but it's not. It is live right now. You can go and roll around in this buggy right now.
It's definitely something they needed.
Yeah, to traverse planets basically in a faster way.
I did notice this morning that 5 people on my friends list had played this game last night that hadn't touched it.
Wow.
Now, to be fair, one of them had played for 750 hours and the other had played for 1,100 hours. Whoa. So these are the hardcore fans coming back.
That buggy got him back.
To ride a buggy.
Shattered Space is looking like it might be awesome, man.
Yeah, I think it might be delivering what they needed it to have in the first place. I mean, more and more, especially like looking at this thing, it's like, oh, this thing wasn't remotely done when they put it out. Like, this thing needed another year.
It did, but Shattered Space almost looks like a survival horror game.
Yeah, there is some of that. I mean, they've hinted at some of that in a couple things. I mean, there's even places in the existing game that's sort of like, oh, I see what you're going for there, but it's not really making it. But they wanted a little more tension. They wanted some alien in there, and it just didn't really happen. Like, there is a world where they rehab this No Man's Sky style over the next few years, and it really becomes something special.
I feel like that's already starting to happen.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Give me something to do in space, please.
And Shattered Space, is that November?
That sounds right.
Or October. I think it might be October as well.
I can't remember. It's really not a priority for me right now. I'll get to it when they put it out.
Yeah.
Because I did get the Ultimate Edition, so I already paid for it.
Yeah.
So whenever it shows up, I'll try it.
I think it's looking pretty awesome. So hopefully I'm right, and the first real big expansion for Starfield is something that's a game changer.
September 30th, Vincent says.
Oh, okay. September 30th. Thanks, Vincent.
So the thing about it is, like, Bethesda has certainly shown that they're open to criticism, especially in the wake of Fallout 76. So and they've done a good job, rehabbing that game. So I'm optimistic.
Okay. We gotta get moving. Next up, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. They showed a gameplay trailer, and then today, and it's up on SIFTD right now, they put up a huge 26-minute segment of raw gameplay. So this game is coming out early next year as well, also on February 11th. So there's 2 games.
February is the new
Civ
October.
7 and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, both on February 11th.
There's something else there, too. Something else that was in February.
Yeah, next year I think is going to just be pretty much incredible from start to finish. But they showed the first gameplay of this, which basically was just horse riding. It's like a horse riding trailer, and then they show a couple sword fights, and that was pretty much it. And the sword fights look like crap. The previews that came out today for this were pretty encouraging. Most of them were positive, but not glowing. It sounds like the game has bugs, which doesn't surprise me at all.
No, I mean, the first one was barely playable at launch.
At launch, yeah.
It still doesn't work all that well.
Yeah. So it looks like there might be issues with this one as well. But yeah, they showed the first gameplay trailer, and then again, if you go on SIFTD right now, there's a huge 20-plus minute chunk of gameplay you can check out if you really want to get the lay of the land and figure out kind of how the sequence of events happen, how the open world works, all that kind of stuff, and a better look at combat, really, because they don't show much in this trailer.
Mighty Pony Girl, yes, the guy who runs this company is the company that makes this is a Gamergator.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, not someone you typically would want to support, unfortunately, but I'll play it anyway. I'll jump on the grenade. And then next up, something we hinted at a little bit earlier, Peter Molyneux's brand new game is called Masters of Albion, and yes, Albion is the name of the territory in the Fable games.
Albion is an ancient name for England.
Yeah.
So you can't copyright that.
Yep. And he is basically creating yet another God game. I don't know how many more he thinks.
This very much looks like they took a bunch of the same ideas and possibly some of the assets from that legacy like NFT game and just sort of slapped some combat in it.
Well, they stole the concept of Fortnite. The whole concept of this game is you build your fort in the daytime, and then at night you get attacked and you defend it. That was what Fortnite was when it launched. Now, obviously, it's a battle royale shooter, but Fortnite at launch, that's what it was. You built your fort during the day, thus the name Fortnite. Right.
Well, it's a tower defense thing.
I mean, but basically, it's so funny. He basically stole the concept from Fortnite as his new game.
I wouldn't really give that to Fortnite as a concept.
I mean,
it's a tower defense.
Had other
game.
games done that?
Savage had kind of done something like that, although more of an RTS.
Okay,
angle on
I wasn't familiar with that at all.
It wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And the combat, quote unquote, this screams placeholder in ways that even in the interview, I don't know if you saw the interview with him today,
where he said he's like dying from smoking and drinking.
He's basically he doesn't know how much longer he's gonna live, so he's like that. And
this is his last shot.
But he's 65 now, and he talked about how he's gonna be in his late 60s when this comes out. So that's 3 years minimum. Like this is a long way away, and they don't even have a publisher
and it looks
yet.
like it's a long
and this
way
looks,
away.
I mean, this part is like, oh, you're. I don't have any ill will towards Peter Molyneux. I don't think I don't sense the malice in him.
No,
in that, like, from like an Elon Musk or something. But it's just, buyer beware is a and I do love the black and whites. There's a little bit of black and white happening here with the hand and picking people up and throwing them around. They are. It is unfortunate that the art director that he used to use died, so it's a different. So it doesn't quite look like an old style.
Well, he claims that he's working with a bunch of people who used to work with him at Lion.
Yeah, but that guy is not one of them.
Yeah,
obviously.
But he's trying to say that, like, this is kind of an all-star team of developers from people that he's worked with in the past, but it's still 22 cans. It's the same studio he's been working on mobile stuff with for the last 10 plus years or whatever. So
12 years. because Curiosity was 2012.
Yeah.
X-Play still existed when that game came out.
Yep.
I used to sit in the booth at like 7 in the morning Wednesday morning, just before we taped, just cracking the stupid cube.
So again, that's called Masters of Albion. God knows when it's going to actually release, or if it ever does release.
Yeah, that's the real thing. It's like,
will it ever come out?
I mean, probably early. I mean, he talks about early access in that interview, but it's just like, you might see this in early access. We ever see a finished version? I mean, we didn't see a finished version of Goddess. Mm-hmm. Or I didn't even know that he put out I knew about the NFT game. I didn't realize it, quote unquote, came out.
Right.
I didn't realize they made $50 million off of that. I think that was the number I saw.
Holy moly!
He says in the interview that the money
the
money from the NFT stuff is funding this game. Like that's
as Barnum said, there's a sucker born every minute.
Oh, for sure.
Next up,
and that sucker is going to give their money to Peter Molyneux, apparently.
Next up, Little Nightmares 3. It was game of the show at Gamescom last year. This year, it's just 1 out of 50 trailers that Jeff Keighley showed, but they finally showed the gameplay. This is called a friendship trailer. So they're finally showing off like the cooperative stuff, how you'll play along with somebody else. Don't keep in mind also that this is being made by a new team. This isn't the team that made the first 2 Little Nightmare games. That's Tarsier, and we're going to show their new game in a minute. But this looks like more Little Nightmares to me, which is fine. I was surprised when it was game of the show at Gamescom last year. I was like, really? Okay. For whatever reason, it was the one that a lot of the journalists seemed to gravitate towards. I mean, Gamescom was kind of weak last year, to be fair, and now we're seeing it this year in the lack of releases. I mean, that's always the first clue is like, what happens at the conventions?
I think it's always a little embarrassing when a game of the show doesn't come out before the next show.
Right, yeah. And no, people knew. I mean, it had just been announced at Gamescom last year. So anyway, Little Nightmares 3 is on the way. They didn't supply a lot of information other than this trailer. Next up, a game that did catch my eye, though, Lost Records, Bloom and Rage. It is the next adventure franchise from Don't Nod. It's kind of like if Stranger Things or Stand By Me was based around a band. It's actually kind of like Stand By Me with girls instead of boys.
But it's also got an it to it because they're all reuniting after a certain amount of time.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they're all getting back together or whatever. It is really just a mashup of every pop culture thing that's been popular for the last like 25 years. And I don't blame a studio for doing that. Like, if you know something that works, like, why would you risk like something that won't work? But I found this pretty interesting. Obviously, as someone who's been in a lot of bands in the past, that kind of caught my eye as well. But there's a supernatural angle to it, as you might expect.
It's also I mean, it is like, because this takes place 25 years ago, so it is sort of like an older
throwback thing.
It's
got like lo-fi 90s music and the whole shebang.
It reminded me of what's that other game that's coming? That's
Mixtape.
Like mixtape. Yeah. It's like, that seems to be a trend here, which I sort of ascribe to James Gunn.
Yeah.
Like, I think his needle drop filmmaking style has sort of like started to echo in eternity here.
I could definitely see that. But again, this is Don't Nod's new franchise. They're releasing this in episodes, but they call them tapes. Tape 1 comes out February 18th. Tape 2 comes out March 18th, exactly a month later. This definitely caught my eye. I generally do like adventure games. I don't play them a lot, but I saw somebody in chat earlier say that they use like adventure games as a palate cleanser. I do the same thing. Like, if I played a bunch of really violent, gory games, I'll go to a game like this to kind of like reset a little bit. But again, first episode of this coming out on February 18th. And again, it is called Lost Records, Bloom and Rage. Next up, a game that I just teased, the new game from Tarsier. We got a teaser for this like a couple weeks ago. It was that trailer that I showed you that had like that pig that was like sewn up with its guts hanging out. This is the full trailer for it. And as it turns out, it's just Little Nightmares. So Tarsier left Little Nightmares to start its new franchise, and it's just another Little Nightmares. I mean, if I showed you this trailer, Matt, and I said this is Little Nightmares 3, you would be like, okay.
Yeah, I would accept that.
Yeah. I don't know why you leave a franchise that you've established and has done pretty well to start a brand new one that's almost the same exact thing.
Because the new one you have more equity in.
Maybe. Yeah, financially maybe there's something going on there. Maybe Bandai Namco owns Little Nightmares and Tarsier wants to own this maybe.
I would guess that's something.
But ultimately, it's very similar. They haven't really explained the whole animal angle to it. It's called Reanimal. And obviously in this trailer, there's tons of animals that you're fighting and you're being terrorized by, but they haven't explained the context of it, like why this is happening. But I thought this looked pretty interesting. You're playing as an orphaned brother and sister, and you're trapped on an island that used to be their home, but it's been transformed into this hellish, ghoulish hellscape. And they're basically on a quest to rescue their 3 friends who have disappeared. And that's pretty much all the information we have on it at this point. We don't know release date or any of that jazz, but my guess is if you like Little Nightmares, you're probably going to like Reanimal as well. Next up, maybe the most pleasant surprise from the entire thing, Dune Awakening. It is an MMORPG with action-based combat, and I thought this demo looked amazing. I was really, really pleasantly surprised by this. I had no interest in it before this press conference. And now I'm like, okay. Like, I usually hate MMORPGs, but I might like this one. There's a demo available right now. It is launching in early 2025, so not much longer to wait. This is one of those games where they worked on it for a really long time and didn't show it, like, at all. Just like these really cryptic CG trailers. And then they finally show what the game looks like, and people are like, hot damn. I mean, I usually don't get excited about MMOs at all, and I am excited for this game.
Is it actual aim and shoot, or is it?
I think it is, yeah. I don't think it's just all like number crunching under the hood or whatever. I think you actually shoot like a first-person shooter. Now, I'm sure enemies have hit points, and you have hit points and all that RPG stuff, but yeah, it looks like it's actual real action-based combat. Again, it is Dune Awakening. I actually don't know if this is coming to consoles. Do you?
Yeah, it is coming.
It is?
I think
PS5
and PlayStation.
And Xbox Series.
I think so.
I mean, it's a good-looking game for an MMORPG as well. So it's definitely not coming to PS4 or Xbox One or Switch, that's for sure. But again, there's a demo. I don't know if it's actually launched already or if it's launching like before the end of Gamescom, but it's coming soon. So if you want to give it a look and give it a try, again, it's called Dune Awakening. And I do know that the demo is only going to be available for PC. It's not going to be available on consoles.
It's an interesting idea, at least.
Yeah. I wish there was more MMORPGs like this. I don't even really care if it's Dune or not or any other IP. I just want MMORPGs with real combat that you are in control of. And it's not just like these numbers that are being crunched under the hood where you can't see what's going on. So
it's very hard to do.
It is hard to do. But I'm hoping maybe this is the one. Is this Funcom?
I don't know.
I think it's Funcom. I think I cut the logo out at the beginning of the trailer, unfortunately. But I think it's a Funcom game. Which, Funcom's games have generally been pretty buggy at launch.
Anarchy Online, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
You can see there's world building as well. It's a big part of it. Which, a lot of MMORPGs don't have that either. This might be one of those games that like people didn't really notice that much at Gamescom that ends up becoming like a pretty big thing. It's definitely trying a bunch of different stuff for this genre, and I'm on board for pretty much all of it because I've never really been a fan. And look, you have this crazy, awesome, like mosquito helicopter that you can fly around the world.
It's an ornithopter.
Yeah, I'm sure. I was about to say, I'm sure you know the actual word for it.
Yeah.
I don't. But you can use it to get around and
have you not
travel.
seen the movies?
Yeah, of course I have.
Yeah.
I just don't remember every little detail about them. And I'm not like a big Dune head, so to speak. Like I watched the movies back in, was it the 80s or the 70s?
I mean the ones that just came out.
No, I watched those too, but I'm saying the original ones. Were those the 80s or the 70s?
The David Lynch movie is 84.
84, okay.
And these weren't in it.
Right.
He did not include, I think he did, but they didn't look like that.
Okay.
They
So I've watched the movies, but I'm just not like a big fan where I learn everything. Like I know all the names of the ships in Star Wars. I don't know them for Dune.
Mm-hmm.
Dune. Also, the woman on stage could not say the word Dune. I don't know why. She just couldn't say it for whatever reason. Next up, we got a trailer for Marvel Rivals, which shows off 2 new characters, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. We also got the release date for this, and this is where I was getting December 6th from. The release date for Marvel Rivals is December 6th. I have been trying, by the way, to get in the betas for this for months. I applied when they first put it up. I have applied 2 times since. I cannot get in the betas. So if any of you guys...
terrible look for Captain America.
Yeah.
And I maybe I don't know my current Winter Soldier mythos, but when did he get tentacles?
Yeah.
That's weird.
He's like Dr. Ock. Yeah, it's a little weird.
I'm not an expert on Winter Soldier, but I didn't know he could do that.
If any of you guys have an extra invite, you can get an invite, or can get me into this, I would appreciate it very much. Again, DM me on SIFTD at Shane. Get at me on Twitter at Dimfire. I want to give this a go before it comes out. I've been trying. I cannot get into the beta. So if any of you guys can help with that, that would be awesome. But again, they show 2 new characters here, Cap and Winter Soldier, and the release date, which is December 6th. And then one of the smaller games that kind of caught my eye is Arc Raiders. Do you remember this when it was debuted like a year ago or whatever?
Like the title rings a bell.
Yeah.
I don't really remember.
Well, it was supposed to be a free-to-play competitive shooter, and they have now reintroduced it as a paid game. It's going to cost $40, and now it's a PvPvE survival shooter. It's coming next year. You take on the role of a raider. You fight for your own survival and that of your underground colony of Speranzas. Basically, you're scavenging and hunting for resources that you have to extract home safely from the surface. And it's under development by former Battlefield developers. So that's probably why you're looking at it like, wow, that game looks pretty good for a smaller indie-ish game. But that's because it's not being made by developers who worked on smaller indie games. They are people who have worked on big franchises like Battlefield. So they have kind of tweaked the concept behind this game since they first debuted it. This is the debut trailer we're seeing now. The one we watched before was the new one. And this is when it was supposed to be free to play and a different kind of game. So it'll be interesting to see what it ultimately becomes. My guess is that they've adjusted it based upon market conditions and seeing other games that were going to be similar to Arc Raiders fail. At least that's my guess. Next.
I feel like there's a lot of pivoting happening right now.
For everybody, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think ultimately the Concord people are going to wish that they had pivoted as well.
How you doing over there, Marathon?
Although this game went the other way, Arc Raiders. Like they went from free to play to charging, and that may be because of what they saw Helldivers do. I don't know.
Yeah, but also you make it more of a division style PvPvE thing, and I think you've got more robust game on your hands.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
We'll see. I think. I forgot the name of it again.
Of what?
The one you just mentioned.
Arc Raiders.
No. The one that's coming out now.
Concord.
Yeah. That one is going to
It's going to
pay
fail.
the price.
It is, I think. Yep. Next up, a game that they keep showing everywhere, the first Berserker, Kazan. This game does nothing for me, but it just keeps showing up over and over again.
This looks like the most generic kind of Souls-like. Like the art style is cool, but like I don't play the art style. I have to play the game. And
Yep. But they showed this. This was towards the end of the show. I don't know if this is really resonating with anybody. It doesn't seem like it. Its metrics are not great on SIFTD. Next up, Path of Exile 2. They announced the early access period for that is happening beginning on November 15th. People have been waiting a long time for that. So finally, Path of Exile 2 is rounding the corner and almost finished. I will absolutely give this game a go whenever the beta launches and the early access period starts, and we'll be covering it here on GameFace. Are you excited for it, Matt?
Not really.
No.
I mean, I've played so many of these games at this point. It's kind of the Diablo style game, and it's just a big grinding slog, and
I'll be ready for another one.
I never get to the end of them, and it's whatever.
I'll be ready for another one.
These guys are probably the top of the game in terms of this genre, though. So if you're gonna play one, I would probably say this.
Yeah.
It's like this or Diablo 4 at this point.
Yeah.
Looks a lot better than Titan Quest 2.
Yeah, it does. Which we have the release date for that today as well, I think. And then the final game I want to talk about from Gamescom actually wasn't in Jeff Keighley's presentation. This was debuted after his show ended. It is a game called Directive 8020. It is Supermassive's new game, which I hinted at a little earlier in the show. It is being published by Bandai Namco, and it is a survival horror game. So Supermassive is usually creating horror adventure games that don't have combat in them. This one goes full bore survival horror. We're actually fighting in the game. It's not just story driven and plot driven where you're making decisions and just seeing how it all plays out. So
although it does seem to be part of the Dark Pictures subline.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
There's a little bit more interactivity for sure in Dark Pictures stuff than there was in some of their other games. But this one's going full on survival horror with guns and sci-fi weapons and all that kind of stuff. So just want to keep an eye on. Again, it's called Directive 8020. It's coming in 2025 for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series. And that is it for Gamescom 2024. My guess is a couple other things will sneak in to the show over the next few days. But what I've learned since Keighley started doing opening night live is once you get through his presentation, that's pretty much Gamescom. There will be a couple games that'll bubble up over the next few days, but for the most part, like once you watch Jeff Keighley's show, you pretty much know all the content that's going to be at Gamescom. And so what we just gave you there pretty much is what you're going to see. We're not giving up at SIFTD, obviously. We're going to keep on curating, keep on adding all the new content from Gamescom all the way through the weekend. So obviously keep your browser tuned to siftd.net for the latest on Gamescom as more stuff breaks. But I think we just shared with you pretty much the vast majority of the stuff that's going to be at the show. And then after that, all that's left is Tokyo Game Show. And then that's it. The Game Awards, which, isn't a convention, but still a place where they debut games. So there you go. That's Gamescom 2024. And let's see. What do we got next here? Oh, next up. If I can find it here. Oh, where did it go? Oh, here we go. Next up, we're going to talk about Black Myth Wukong. Undoubtedly, the biggest release of the week, and probably, let's be honest, Matt, the last 3 weeks, we've been really struggling to get games into GameFace over the last few weeks. Finally, we have. Initially, I didn't think this game was going to be that big of a deal, but it has turned out to be the biggest release on Steam ever.
Well, you go wide in China. There's a lot of people there.
Is that what you think it is?
2.2 million simultaneous players. Yeah, that's because your core audience is in a country with 1 billion people in it.
Yeah, and this is probably the most popular story in Asia.
Yeah, the Journey to the West is the story.
It's been redone countless times.
I mean, this is what Dragon Ball's based on.
It is.
It's everything.
And they stayed pretty true to it here. Now I'm gonna admit I only got to play this for an hour. I got to play just enough to get B-roll because I was just swamped getting ready for episode 400. Matt has spent a lot more time with it. It is the first thing I will say though is it is an action RPG.
Yeah.
I thought it might steer close to an action adventure. It does not. There is tons. The skill trees in this are huge. There's like 100 and some different skills that you can eventually unlock.
No, there's less than that, but a lot of the skills have multiple levels.
Yeah.
So it's like 5 to this, 5 to that. It's like it adds up. The skill tree is not. Skill trees are. There's several of them, but like most of it just takes a long time to get to them because like you don't level up too fast.
Yeah. So I played this for about an hour.
You can, however, respec at any time for free with no penalty.
You can respec anytime?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So.
Every game should be that way, in my opinion. And at no cost as well.
Yeah, there's no penalty for doing it.
So the plot in this, if people don't know the original story, you play as like the monkey god or whatever.
Well, you play as the chosen one. You play as the destined one because the Monkey King is basically sealed away at the beginning of the game in a pretty awesome cutscene.
It really is,
which
yeah.
you're watching here.
Yeah.
And then many years later, you are a monkey, young and upcoming monkey man.
There was one line in this.
Not necessarily Wukong. I mean, Wukong, that was Donkey Kong's son who changed his name after he became a big Ric Flair fan.
Yeah.
But no, you're the destined one who's a young monkey person who basically goes out to follow the path of the defeated Monkey King god and is going to go collect all the 6 relics that basically give him the power of the original and throw down the Celestial Council sort of thing. And that's the game. You know, like going through and you're fighting kind of the powers that be that are sort of all these animal people who are serving all these different very powerful other animal people, lords and kings who are sort of protecting these relics, and that's sort of it. You know, that's your motivation, and every time you get another one of them, you get more powerful.
Yeah.
So you very action RPG friendly premise.
Combat in this is different than a lot of other Souls-likes.
Yeah, in fact, I wouldn't even call this a Souls-like.
No?
It borrows some concepts.
It has the bonfires.
It has the bonfires, but there is no death penalty. There is no real... Like it's not.
Do enemies respawn though when you?
Some of them, not
Yeah.
all of them, and way few. Like a shocking number of enemies are one-time spawns, especially if they're close to a bonfire equivalent.
Yeah.
I was actually really surprised at how, because a couple times I got fought through a whole, kind of like like a whole battalion of enemies and got to a bonfire equivalent, and I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna go back and kill those guys again and level up a little bit, and they're all gone. Like they don't come back. So it's not because I would say this the first I think there's 4 chapters to this. I think it's 4 main areas. So I'm in the second main area. The first chapter of this is actually pretty easy.
Yeah, even I'm not a big Souls player. I did die a couple times to the bosses, but like the rank and file enemies, I don't think I ever died to the rank and files.
The rank and file enemy, actually, it's a little sadistic. It's like you are way more powerful than most of the random dudes. Certainly in the beginning.
Yeah.
In chapter 1 in the forest. And they are pretty fun. Like they are afraid of you, or they don't like you. There's a lot of fun voice acting through that. And I did die in the final boss of the chapter. Like I think that was the first time I really died. It took me a while to realize there was no death penalty.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. Okay, cool. I can just go fight him again. I think
it's a relief.
You lose like your focus and like you're stored up, kind of like that sort of thing. So you have to reset that. So, but it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
The second chapter, which is in the desert, that's much harder because then they start introducing more ranged enemies rather, that you can't reach. Like in the first chapter, the ranged enemies you can get to. In this one, in the second chapter, they start being up on roofs you can't reach.
Yeah.
You do get a decoy ability that lets you kind of get around that, but it's a different thing. You start having to fight multiple enemies at once, and a lot of the enemies start having status effects, so poison and lightning and things like that. So the challenge steps up for sure. But it's still pretty manageable. Like the combat system is surprisingly in your favor. Like. And it's.
I didn't feel a great sense of weight. Like you start out with a staff basically.
Yeah,
it felt like I was whacking like paper mache enemies. Like I didn't feel a lot of impact from the combat.
It depends on the enemy. Like those rank and file wolf guys are pretty much paper mache. Like they go down in 3 hits.
Yeah.
When you're fighting a giant rock guy, it feels very different. When you're fighting a reanimated bone bird thing, you feel the hits a little better.
I would say this: it felt like with the tougher enemies, like my staff wasn't doing anything. But their health would go down, but it didn't feel like I was actually landing attacks.
Interesting because I disagree completely.
Really?
On that, because I think this is one of the most shocking things about this game to me, just in terms of how I expect kind of a Souls-inspired action RPG, like hack and slash combo-based game to sort of bullet sponge. I am shocked at how easy it is to interrupt enemies in this with your light combo. Like
I'm not talking about that though. I'm just talking about like just the impact, like the force feedback you feel in the controller with the hits landing. Like I
don't feel that at all. No, I think
really
no, not at all.
I'm surprised to hear that.
What are you playing on?
PC, but I'm playing on my Xbox controller.
Same. I'm on my Elite.
Me too. My Elite 2. Yeah.
No, it feels good.
Interesting.
To me.
I didn't feel like it did feel good.
No, I think it does. I think
this game does feel sometimes like a tech demo.
At times.
Like this section right here is like, let's show you all the volumetric fog that we can throw in here.
They're showing off in this.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Which is fine. Yeah, I like that.
I don't like the voice of the Monkey King in
Me
this
either.
Scene. Like,
I was surprised when I heard his voice for the first time.
I almost switched to Chinese as soon as I heard it. I'm like, oh no. Like a lot of the English script in this is a little weird.
Yeah.
And some of that, I don't know how much of that is because it's a weird translation, and how much of it is I don't understand the cultural references they're making in terms of the Monkey King legend. Like I don't know Journey to the West all that well.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of stuff I feel is lost on me in this game, where I'm like, oh, I'm sure that's a reference to something or somebody, and I just don't know what it is. I actually know the Romance of the Three Kingdoms way better than this one, but it's still like, I mean, it's gorgeous.
It really is. I mean, it's just crazy the teams in Asia, what they're doing. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're making some of the best-looking games in the industry now.
And I think I've complained a couple times in recent weeks or months about, things that clip through themselves and like armor that clips through itself and weapons. There's none of that in this.
Yeah.
Like they did an amazing job on that. Like the clipping in this is almost non-existent. It's so good.
Now their studio said that the PC version has like bugs and stuff. I didn't come across any.
I haven't come across anything major in
But I only played like an hour or two. But
it took a while for the hitching to settle out with the shader compilation, especially like. And then, of course,
that's kind of the way games are anymore.
I updated the NVIDIA drivers, and then it had to do it again, so it was a little rough on that. And, that always feels a little weird once you've already seen it run smoothly. But now it's pretty much fine. Like, it just has to load everything in once, basically.
This fight goes on forever, by the way. There's, like, 3 different phases. Like, I do feel like some of the fights drag on a little bit. Like, I stumbled across, like, this weird, like, troll thing in the woods. I think I fought that guy for like 35 minutes or something like that.
The big baby thing?
Yeah. It took me forever to beat him.
I think I killed him in 3 minutes.
Really?
Like, if that.
I had to chip him down. It took me forever.
No, I was upgraded at that point. I mean, I was keeping up with the upgrades. But no, I was, as I figured he was going to be the first real challenge.
Yeah.
And no, I killed him.
He took me to the shed a couple times.
As soon as I got that freeze spell, like you good luck.
I started abusing that as well after a while. At first, I didn't realize how potent it was. It took me a little bit to be like, oh yeah, wow, this thing is way OP.
No, I mean, I wish it regenerated quicker.
Yeah,
you gotta wait 50 seconds. But like, and as far as I've found, there's no way to make that no reliable way. I have an item that lessens spell regeneration or cooldown time now, but like it's an equipment thing. It's not a skill tree thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking good.
I was pleasantly surprised by this game. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the combat is like I said, it's in your favor. The dodging, it's all dodging. There's no parrying or blocking.
Yeah.
It's all perfect
rolling,
dodge and rolling.
Yeah.
The iframes are very generous, especially once you've upgraded the dodge roll.
Yeah, I didn't really have any problems dodging attacks in this.
The stamina bar is generous. Like you run out if you abuse it.
You go crazy.
But even here's the thing: even when you're out of stamina, you can still do 2/3 of your combo.
Right.
You just can't do the finishing hit.
Which does do most of the damage.
Which does most of the damage, but it means you're not sitting there like completely vulnerable.
Right.
Like I can keep going in my combo and I stagger them with some hit and then that lets me get away.
Yeah.
Like I really like that.
Yeah.
I
was surprised at the RPG elements, how in depth they were. I was surprised how big the skill trees were. I was surprised the difference that the gear made. Like when I equipped a piece of gear, I actually felt the difference.
Yeah, the numbers, even small number differences matter in this. That's one thing. Even if something's only upping your defense by 3, you're going to notice.
Yeah.
The other thing to note is early on when you beat that giant demon baby, you are probably not going to have the ability to absorb its soul. It'll say you need guidance for that.
Mm-hmm.
You will eventually run into a character who gives you upgrades your gourd to be able to suck spirits into it. And that is very important because you can equip those spirits you absorb, including that giant demon baby, and use a super, like basically pull the two triggers together, and you'll use one of their abilities as kind of a quick, kind of a smart bomb thing.
Yeah.
But every spirit you equip, you can equip one at a time for that, and each one has a different passive ability. The demon baby's passive ability is a pretty significant defense boost. So if you want to survive, the two main tips I would give early on is once you unlock that, you make sure you have equipped the demon baby, because you're going to get a good defense boost, and get down that left side skill tree and unlock dodging does not interrupt your light combo. As soon as you can, because you got to go down the dodge roll and the sprinting improvement trees to get to the middle and get that one. But once you can do that, you can dodge an attack and continue your light combo and still get to that big final hit.
Oh, wow.
Even after you've dodged. Game changer.
Yeah,
Huge
yeah.
game changer.
Totally.
And basically required to survive in Chapter 2, I would say.
Wow.
That's the way I play it.
I was pleasantly surprised by this game in so many ways.
Yeah, it's fun. It's good.
Like, I want to keep playing it. I don't know if I'm going to have time to keep playing it, but I want to.
Yeah, it's you can make pretty regular progress. There's tons of weird little side things to find. It's pretty linear. It's not like an open world thing, but there's tons of looping things, and anywhere you think you can kind of try to go, you probably can, even though there's some invisible walls and some weird places here and there.
Yeah, it's not an open world game.
But
it's
like
that God of War.
It has that Dark Souls sort of like looping back on itself level design. It's a little shocking to me that there's no map.
Yeah.
I
thought maybe later on they'd give you one.
No, there's no map in the game.
Wow.
At all. There's people who have made maps on Reddit.
I bet they have,
You go to Reddit, you can find maps where people have done that if you want to see a map of how to get around. Because there are pretty extensive areas once you get past the first sections.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of secrets to find. There's like secret areas to get to. There's secret bosses everywhere. And like not just
you
like,
come across just people in the woods or out in the world.
not even just that. There's like real hidden shit. Like,
like
you can teleport to different places. You do the right things. You can end up finding like these really tough things you shouldn't even touch early on. And they even the VOs sort of like, don't run away, little monkey. You're not ready for this. And I'm just like, oh, fuck you then. I'm going.
Yeah. I think the most important thing that I could share about this is that if you are someone like me who, when you hear Souls-like or whatever, you cringe or you run away, don't run away from this game. It's not like that.
It's not a Souls-like.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like,
it uses the bonfire mechanic. It uses sort of the lock-on combat mechanic. It doesn't even have the attacks on the shoulder buttons. It's not a Souls-like.
Yeah.
It's just using some ideas from the Souls genre that makes a lot of sense to use for something like this. It's good checkpointing. Basically.
Yeah, I had no problem making headway in this at all. It did not feel like I was playing like a From Software game when I was playing it. So if you look interested in this, you look at the combat and the graphics and everything, you're like, I like that, but I'm afraid. Don't be afraid.
And
it's
it
not
knows that you're going to assume that about it too, because when it talks to you, the little tooltip thing that pops up about death basically says, when you die, you'll respawn over here, and you keep your will and your sparks.
Yeah.
Like, it tells you specifically you don't lose anything when you die, which is something I think I would assumed I would have. That's also the interesting, like the progression thing is interesting, because basically you have a little level up bar that gets added to, and will is money, and like you get a little level up bar. Once the level up bar crosses a threshold, you get a spark, and the sparks are what you use to upgrade the tree, the skill trees.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a number of little goals to go for in each of those, and it's pretty satisfying. To kind of like, you're constantly feeling like you're making progress, and you can continue to upgrade you can actually Souls style grind by resetting the enemy respawn to continue to grind to upgrade some abilities if you think that's what you need, even if you just think you need more health and stamina for an area. So they're very friendly in that way. Like the skill curve feels pretty good. All the skill upgrades feel meaningful. And tangible, like you feel the difference when you upgrade.
I'm wondering if you get way down though, if that's the case, because there are tons of things in the skill tree.
There's a lot, but looking at what they do, like some of them I'm not interested in because I don't really use. But there's like two different stances that I haven't even really touched yet. Because Because one of the things that's interesting that I think it does well is like the hitboxes aren't maybe pinnacle of From Software good, but they do a good job of remembering that if they hit your staff, they didn't hit you.
Mm-hmm. And
one of the stances is you can literally stand on the staff, and they when they attack you, they're just hitting the staff and they don't hit you. And it costs stamina to do that, but then you can drop down on them with a really strong attack, and you can keep upgrading that ability. And of course, one of the things in the original myth and story is the staff being able to extend to ridiculous lengths, and both of those you can either extend to a ridiculous length and stand
right.
way
I forgot
above
about that
everybody,
actually. Yeah.
Or the other stance is you can charge it up and hit them. Like basically, it's a ranged attack. Like you can extend that thing like a football field. Like it's very anything that extends your range is a good skill choice, especially like extending the range of the light attack combo opener, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's an interesting little system where like it's called focus stuff, where like you build up a little focus meter in a curve down in the lower right corner, and that stores as little dots next to your little portrait, and you can spend those in combos or as a charge to like, you know, do a super like finisher for the combo. And then like there's skills that let you spend more than one of those points to like add on to that combo. So
here's a skill tree right
here. You can do some pretty
yeah.
crazy stuff with that. You can also do that out of that, you know, the staff stance or the charge long step. Like there's a bunch of stuff, and it's all pretty simple. It's not things that you're going to forget how to do and have to refer to again. You're just be like, okay, my basic attack is on X. Y is sort of where I go to like spend the focus and do some crazy stuff, and then eventually you can make it so like when you use that focus stuff, it activates other things and like procs stuff that like makes you more powerful, able to do more damage, or extends your spell stuff. Like it all synergizes really well, and it doesn't feel like there's a bad way to do it. And then on top of that, the fact that you can respec whenever you want. Like let's
yeah.
experiment.
Yeah.
So
I think every game should do that. I don't know why games don't. I do understand if you started making a game
mm-hmm.
and you couldn't respec, it's hard to switch gears, but
also once again, you can pause the game whenever you want, and it doesn't fucking cause any problems.
Yeah, the world isn't alive.
I don't know what the issue is.
Yep. So anyway, that's Black Myth Wukong. Matt, would you recommend people get it?
Yeah, especially if you have a PC that can run it.
Yeah.
Maybe download that benchmark demo first to make sure you can, because it is demanding.
I mean, you can see from the B-roll. It's a beautiful game. Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoy it a lot more than I thought I would.
Me too.
I mean,
I was pleasantly surprised. And again, I haven't played that much, but
I think certainly back when the trailers were running, I think I was pretty meh about it because it just looked like another Souls game.
Yeah.
But
I'm skeptical because I think they're fake. I see these games from China because for years we would get these trailers where you'd see these games, you're like, oh my god, that's like the best looking game I've ever seen. And then the game would never come out, or when it did, it was like, oh, well, this very specifically this scene that they showed that looks that good because there's not a whole lot of other things going on. Like, these games are starting to deliver now. This one definitely delivers. Pleasantly surprised is probably the most subdued way I can say I describe this game. Like, I really had very little interest in this game. I didn't even really want to play it. Honestly. And I started playing it within 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, okay. That's totally wrong for feeling that
I'll
way.
also say that the ray tracing on this wasn't working at first because you had to restart the game to make it work, and it still didn't quite work. I didn't realize it wasn't working, and it wasn't fully working until I updated the drivers, the GeForce drivers. And then when I loaded it up, holy shit. Like the
game
different,
was gorgeous,
like,
man.
Completely different looking game.
It is just a gorgeous game. Yeah. I mean, even if you just want a game.
It didn't look bad without that, with the ray tracing not working properly. But once it did, wow.
I mean, I got this on for my PC. And I'll say this. It's the first time since I built that PC where I was like, okay. Now I see why I spent $550 just on the graphics card for this PC. Usually I buy them for console. I'm like, I always get PS5. So I'm like, that's where all my library is. But because I just built my new PC, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy this on PC. And I'm glad that I did. So it is a gorgeous game. If you are looking for something that just shows off your rig, that's a great choice for sure. And I'm somebody who's been looking for that for the last couple of weeks. I'm like, man, like I need a game that makes me feel good about all the money I spent on my PC. This is the first game that did that. Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's Black Myth Wukong. I haven't played it enough.
You go load up Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I don't have the PC version of it.
You gotta go get that.
I know, I hear, but it's like I don't want to spend $60 just to be happy that I spent $1,000.
Well, it'll be on sale.
I mean, that's what I'm doing basically, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, I haven't played it enough for me to say I recommend it. I will say the first couple of hours I played, I was very pleasantly surprised. Matt has played enough to recommend it, and so at GameFace we give Black Myth Wukong the thumbs up. All right, Got a couple more reviews. We may have to cut one from today's show. We'll see how it goes. But for now, here's a word from our sponsor, the Lands of Hyberian. Welcome to the Lands of Hyberian, an old-school turn-based RPG with a point-and-click adventure vibe. It's under development by Sifter Hussein Stealthy Zaban. He's trying to finish his first ever video game, but he needs your help. The game currently includes around 4 hours of content, complete with 49 achievements, but his goal is to improve what he's already created and add another 2 hours before it's complete. Right now, as part of this special promotion, you can purchase this game for just $1. That goes towards things like trading cards, replacing AI art, voice acting, and the soundtrack. While it's certainly not required, Stealthy is hoping you'll provide as much feedback as possible to make this the first video game truly crafted by the Sifted community. There's work to be done, but Sifted Army, let's band together and try to make the best game possible. It's in Steam Early Access right now, and you can find a link to its product page in the description below, or just search for the Lands of Hyberian on Steam. Let's do this! So I gotta say, this is the coolest sponsorship we've ever had, whether it's on GameFace or a sponsorship for Pactor Factor or whatever. This is the coolest one we've ever done because it gets you guys involved. And normally we're just saying like, hey, you should go buy this because we like this product or whatever. And we are saying that a little bit with Lands of Hyberian. It only costs $1, I'll say that. But what's really important here is that we want to get you involved with making the game. Sifter Stealthy has been working on this game basically in private for quite a while now. He finally got to the point where he's like, I want to put it out there. I want to get feedback from people like you. Because you guys know what a good video game is, and your input could be invaluable to him in finishing off his game. So again, go to Steam, search for Land of Hyberian, buy the game for $1. It's just a stinking $1. And then we're going to launch a thread on the Sifted forums where people can go and start giving feedback. Now, I've been swamped the last week. I haven't had a chance to kind of follow up on what's been happening with this sponsorship, but I will this week. And in fact, when I get home tonight, I will go launch that thread so we can start helping Stealthy make this game better. So again, go to Steam, search for Land of Hyberian, plunk down $1 to give it a go, start taking down some notes and stuff like that, and let's make this game as good as possible for our brother, Stealthy. And with that, it's time to talk about something you guys probably aren't all that excited about. And I'll be honest with you, Matt, I wasn't all that excited about it this year either, and that is Madden NFL 25. Before I played it, I really struggled to see what was new about it. A lot of the marketing around this year's game was about this new feature called Boom Tech, which actually is an old feature that's been around for forever. Now that I've played it,
You were not ready for the football?
Oh, I'm ready for football, man. I am all jacked up for NFL football, and this game always helps do that. It always helps put me in the mood, so to speak. But now that I've played it, I have noticed some more of the differences. Before I talk about Madden, though, I think the first thing everybody wants to know is, should they buy Madden or should they buy College Football 25? By the way, Matt, College Football 25 is now the best-selling game of 2024.
It's almost like they should have been making it all this time.
That's insane, though, that a sports game is the best-selling game of the year. And so, again, I think all your questions are...
There's very few things more universal, at least in America, than which college you went to.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
well, and ask Shane, people were asking me why college football is so popular.
I don't care, but
right.
like, you know, like the vast majority of people are going to have some attachment to that.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it probably did work in their advantage that there hasn't been one in forever.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, people were thirsty for it, without a doubt. And so, again, I know your question is, should you buy that or should you buy Madden? I would buy College Football 25.
Well, which one has shinier helmets?
I would just say, in general, College Football 25 looks way better. It has better graphics. And I don't know how it worked out that way. I don't know if EA wanted it to work out that way, but it has worked out that way. College Football 25 is a better-looking game than Madden NFL 25. There's all kinds of... You'll see in this B-roll, there's all kinds of weird moments in Madden that don't happen in college football. Like, after the play... Like, the celebrations are insane. Like, there's some celebrations, and it lasts, like, 8 seconds. Like, they get a first down, and they start breakdancing on the field. It's like, what are you doing? You got a freaking first down. Like, the boomstick stuff, like the physics stuff, I will say this, it does feel good to run with the football in this. And it does feel realistic. And once you make contact, it does feel like you can kind of feel the contact and run away from it and break tackles that way. I also feels like when you go to tackle somebody, it gives you like a jolt in the controller to let you know you've latched on, and then the stick will control kind of how you throw the player down. So I do feel like the boomstick stuff has made a little bit of a difference, not a drastic difference, but I'll just say that where I think the biggest changes are in this is in the modes and the options. This game is insanely deep. Insanely deep. I could not believe some of the stuff that was in this. So I started playing the franchise where you can choose. Well, maybe I should talk in the sequence of the B-roll. First, seriously. First,
I was Silk Snake. I recently found out Madden was a person.
Wow, you didn't know that. Interesting. Yeah, he was an announcer.
Silk Snake doesn't know a lot.
Yeah. He seems like there's like a holes in his pop culture information.
There are focuses.
Seriously.
In that man's hobbies.
Yeah, he was a coach, like an NFL coach, a very popular one.
Did you see the casting for the Madden movie?
Yes.
Bonkers.
What
but
the
it's
hell?
It's partly about the making of this series.
I know.
So it's going to be interesting.
It's a big part of his story, for sure.
It's like half the movie is the creation of Madden NFL football.
Yeah. So obviously, first off,
Nicolas Cage is John Madden. Here we go. Okay.
I checked out Ultimate Team first. You're seeing that B-roll right now. It is the whole moneymaker for EA, where you buy packs of cards and you create a fantasy football team from the cards. And
sorry,
I'm Irish, American football. I get it.
No, Fire Nate, before he was an announcer, he was a Hall of Fame couch. Is a very funny typo.
Yeah, that's what I said. He was a coach.
But
Yeah.
you said couch.
Oh, he said cow.
The typo's funny.
I'll say this. I really struggled to see any difference in Ultimate Team. And that is EA's biggest mode. It's its moneymaker. I really could not figure out where they made any changes or tweaks to it. There might be, if you're someone who spends 100 hours playing Ultimate Team, there's probably stuff that you noticed. As somebody who played Madden last year for 15 hours and played it this year for 15 hours, I really struggled to see any of the differences in Ultimate Team this year. However, once I went over to franchise, where you choose to either play as a coach or a GM, that's where I was like, whoa. Like, the franchise mode in this game is freaking insane. So you control, like, everything. Like, one of the things that's different about College Football 25 is the recruiting part. Like, you only recruit in college football, where you go and visit people at their homes and take them out to lunch or whatever and try to woo their family so that they'll sign at your school. Well, kind of the equivalent in this is scouting, where you hire your scouts and you assign your scouts to different regions in the United States. They go out and they try to find players to add to your team. There's so much little stuff in the franchise mode like that. And then here, like, you have to make promises in the franchise mode. You're like, okay, the season's starting. I think our defense sucks and our offense is going to be awesome. So I think, my goal is to improve the defense and add more points on offense or whatever. And then you try to live up to those goals as you play through the season. And then if you hit those goals at the end, you get more points. And those points are to, basically, it's like a little mini RPG. You use your points to increase the abilities of players. And like, you'll get a player, it'll be like, oh, you have 1 skill point, and you can kind of choose which category to put it in so that it'll boost his stats or whatever. And it does turn into like a little mini RPG. And the cool thing about it is you can play as much or as little of it as you want. The sim options in this game across the board, no matter what mode you're playing in, are incredible. Like, you can pretty much choose to do as much or as little as you want. Even when you choose a sim option and you're playing a game and it pops up, it's like, hey, here's a pivotal moment in the game. You should probably play this on your own. You can still say no and let the computer do it. And you can do that with pretty much every mode in the game. Franchise in this, I was blown away by all the little details and the minutia. Now, I will admit, it was almost overload for me. And I'm a huge NFL fan. And I got to the point where I'm like, I don't want to do that. And that's okay. You can let the computer do everything if you want to. So really, for me, what stuck out in this for me the most was just the modes. Like, then you go to Superstar mode, where you create a player. And then you go to the combine. And that is one thing that they added back this year, is all the combine drills. The 40-yard dash, the bench press, the long jump. All that stuff is back in the game this year. So you go to the combine, you try all that stuff, you get rated, and then you get drafted. And then you're like the rookie on the team, and you need to go. That player that you create in the Superstar mode ends up going across like a bunch of different modes. And all the things that you do with that player and all those other modes adds into that player and makes that player better, which I think is also a brilliant idea. And then, let me see, what were the other modes that are even worth talking about? Those are the two ones that I spent the vast majority of my time playing. And I had a good time with it, but I've been playing Madden now since, I don't know, like 30 years at this point. And I think if you play it every year, it does become difficult to rationalize paying full price for it every year. Coupled with the fact that when you go to sell your old Madden, you get like no money for it. And I do think it makes it a tough purchase proposition. However, EA has NFL fans by the nads. It's the only game in town. And so if you're a big NFL fan, you're just going to buy the game. And that's why it sells 5 million copies every year without fail. But if you're somebody like me who loves football, but also loves video games even more than you love football, it's hard to rationalize spending the money on. And again, I think most people are going to buy one football game per year. I don't see too many people that buy NCAA and then buy Madden. And I think the big decision here for most people is, do you buy College Football 25 or do you buy Madden? And I guess I would say College Football 25 is the better game by a pretty wide margin. But if you're not into college football, you don't have that regional thing going on with college football, then maybe the allure of being able to play as your favorite NFL team would trump the superiority of College Football 25. But I found like a lot of goofy stuff while playing this, like just weird glitches where like the new boomstick physics or whatever would just go crazy. Like I go to tackle someone, and it would get in this weird thing where like I'm trying to sling him down, but the game doesn't know where to sling him down because there's a player laying there. So you kind of like do this continuation animation until you get past the players, and then you throw him down. There's other times where a player would roll, and he just kept rolling until he got to the point where there was no other players around, and he rolled for like 6 feet. Like, there's all kinds of goofy stuff like that in this game that is not in College Football 25. Like, it's weird.
Only the pros get to do that kind of thing. It's like FIFA.
I guess. Like, I don't know. Playing head-to-head was fine. Like, the net code I thought was pretty good. Like, I didn't have any issues with lag or anything like that. But you have the same old issues of if you get ahead of someone by 10 points, they quit. And so it's very hard to finish games in Madden because they take way too long as well. That's the other thing about all football games is that the time commitment is huge.
I mean, that just sounds authentic.
It is. Like, an NFL game's 3 hours. You play a real game online in Madden, it's like 45 minutes to an hour. Like, if you got to make sure you have cleared your freaking schedule for a while and make sure you don't get distractions because, like, you know, the wife has a habit of coming in when I'm kicking a field goal and the wind is blowing like 100 miles an hour. That's another thing they did change in this, the kicking. Sometimes if you're, like, in a really loud stadium or the wind is really bad or the weather's really bad, your kicking meter will go like this. Mm-hmm. Like, the arc that shows you going through, like, the uprights, it's going like this. So you have to time, like, the snap of the ball when it's in the middle, and then you also have to time, like, the power going up and then the power coming back down.
Wouldn't a football game minimum take an hour?
Well, I mean, you can set the quarter length in Madden, but it does take about an hour usually.
It's like 15 minutes.
Like,
quarter,
I think
right?
5 minutes online is the shortest quarter you can have. And in 5 minutes, it still takes almost an hour to play a game. So it always has been a big commitment. It still is. They haven't found a way around that. Now, to be fair, you can play, like, a lot of the other modes online, too. You can play Ultimate Team online, head-to-head, where you use your little scrappy team of baseball cards, and they use his scrappy team, and you're playing. And the problem with that is it's very difficult to matchmake, because you have, like, a team that has, like, 5 superstars and then, like, 20 scrubs. Like, it's hard to, like, get 2 teams to match up with each other that are equal there. So a lot of those games, like in the other modes, the head-to-head modes, like the scores end up being like all lopsided or whatever. I think they struggled to balance that stuff. So I don't want to beleaguer this because I know you guys don't care that much about Madden, but we do have a little bit of our audience that does love football and does love NFL, like Madden Sports or Madden NFL. And so I do want to take at least 10 minutes every year to talk about the new Madden that I spent a bunch of time playing and I talk about for 5 or 10 minutes and then move on. But there's just, the other thing, too, is that unlike College Football 25, the game is just very clunky and laggy. So any mode that you're in, the menus are always really slow. It's one of those things where you're like, you hit the stick, and then it doesn't go. So you hit the stick again, and then it does go, and then it goes twice. Like, that type of stuff happens all the time. Like, they still haven't figured out a way to get the menus in Madden to be snappy and quick. And it's annoying. The more you play it, the more annoying it becomes.
Are the menus in college football snappy and quick?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they don't lag like they do in Madden.
What's the discrepancy here?
I don't know.
It's the same company.
I don't know. It's College Football 25 is clearly better than Madden NFL 25. It is. There's no doubt about it. Why? I don't know. It's not my job to figure out why. It's my job to tell you which is the better game, so you know which one to buy. Eth Demon says, apparently some NFL teams were begging EA for early copies to check out the new kicking rules. Yes. So Madden actually had like the new kicking stuff in before they actually got to play preseason games where they would actually try out the new kicking mechanic. And so you're right. There were NFL teams like calling EA saying, can we get like an early build so we can look at this in the video game before we have to actually implement it out on the field, which is pretty interesting. But generally, I think in a sentence, Madden NFL 25 is far too similar to Madden NFL 24 and not as good as College Football 25. And that's where I'll leave it. I think that's all you guys want to hear. Sanuku says, wild guess because they played it to save on the Madden game. Yeah. Shoksnake's like, they kicked the ball? I thought they just carried it around.
Usually they do, but sometimes they get to kick it. But only once. And then everybody has to touch it with their hands again.
I do wonder, like, how do you not know? Like I realize that American football's not a big deal in Europe or in Ireland or whatever, but
except when they make them play in London.
They play in Ireland. They've played in Ireland. In fact, the Steelers are Ireland's official team. That doesn't mean
anybody has to care.
But you would just see it. It's like you just see someone kicking the ball in an NFL game. Like somewhere along the line in your life.
I'm going to guess most Irish people have never seen an American football game.
Really?
They did play them there. Why would you?
Because it's just like on the internet or whatever. Like, how do you avoid it?
I'm going to guess the algorithms overseas don't really serve up a lot of American football content to people.
That's possible. Yeah.
They're seeing soccer and we're seeing...
Yeah. I mean, I see soccer, though, is my point.
I don't.
Really? Oh, I do.
I see, like, soccer blooper stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I see the most? Because I keep fucking clicking on it is weird baseball shit.
Oh.
For a while there, every time I'd keep clicking on the little Facebook shorts about, like, horrible umpire calls, and now I get bad umpire video compilations constantly.
That's what happens. The algorithm got you. Yeah. Well, there you go. Anyway, that's Madden NFL 25. It's available for everything. That is one of the franchises that still the publisher will not let go of last gen. So, and maybe that's part of the problem.
I know about snooker. I can't name players or tell you the rules, but also there hasn't been one person who a snooker game has been named after for a quarter of a century to 30 years. So
I have seen snooker on TV many times. I cannot tell you the rules. Have I ever seen a game of cricket? I absolutely have seen many games of cricket.
I have seen a lot of cricket. When I was in England, the first time I was ever in England, it was the the World Championships of cricket between England and Sri Lanka. Mm-hmm. And that's all that was on TV, and so by like 2 days in, I kind of understood it. Like these guys at a pub in Stratford,
snooker. He reminds me of. Let's be honest. Comparing snooker to NFL football is a joke. Mm-hmm. Like one generates more money than God. I don't know how you can not be exposed to NFL football.
Cricket's a more apt comparison, just in the sense of being a national sport.
It's actually kind of big. Some places like India, it's gigantic.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, remember, all the chuds were going on about the reason Disney Plus lost 4.4 million subscribers last year was because they lost the license to cricket.
To cricket, yeah.
And all those subscribers were in like India and Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Like it's
that's
a big deal.
That's definitely a better comparison for sure.
I mean, when I was that was 98 when I was in England that time, and like it's all anyone was talking. It was clearly the most important thing happening in England at the time. Yeah. And after a couple of days, I did understand cricket. I understood what we were watching after a while. And I can't remember it all.
Yeah.
And it all left my mind after
once
we
got
back on the plane. That was the end of it. But it was very exciting at the time. I was into it at the time. It was a fun game. It wasn't.
I love getting absorbed in the culture wherever I go. So if I go someplace and there's a sport there I don't know, I learn it. Like I want to know why people like it.
We're in Alabama. We're learning cornhole. Here we go.
Different kind of cornhole.
Yeah. Well, I can't believe they actually call it that. I'm still mad that I missed the Ocho again this year.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone forgets.
It just happened like a week ago, I think.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be August 8th.
Yeah.
8, the Ocho. And but they run it for like 4 days before, and I miss it, and I'm just like, what?
They don't advertise it like they used to.
No,
it's not as big a deal as it was.
Because
the thing is, Matt, a lot of the things that they used to show on the Ocho, they just show now.
Yeah.
Like cornhole's on ESPN all the time.
Yeah.
Paddleball, like
for those who don't
pickleball.
know, the Ocho is once a year in August. It's a tribute to dodgeball, right?
Oh, it's a tribute to. They used to have a Hispanic version of ESPN, and those sports used to run on that.
Right, but it's a reference to dodgeball,
right?
The movie,
yeah.
But like they turned ESPN2 into the Ocho. It used to be for one day on the 8th of August, but now it's like 4 or 5 days.
It's like Shark Week now.
Yeah, it's like Shark. It is like Shark Week, and now they just run weird shit for like 4 days, and it's like, One year they did
darts,
they did
and
lights,
bumper pools.
the lightsaber championships
Yeah,
one year.
yeah.
Which
It was in, like, a basement.
It was like a basement of a church youth group or something. It was just nothing.
It's hilarious.
There was some interesting stuff. There's a lot of dog sports now. They've leaned into the puppy bowl kind of idea.
Yeah.
But I love that. It's so stupid, and I miss it every fucking year. Every time I find out it happened like 3 days after it ended.
Yep.
That's the sports. There's the fucking EA sports game I'd buy, the Ocho.
Yep. Okay, we're done with Madden, and now it's time for... Not that.
That's not a clean sneaker.
Yeah, it's definitely not a clean sneaker. Now it's time for... What's up, everyone? Shane here, and one thing you may not realize about me is that I am a total sneakerhead. That's right. I've been collecting Nike sneakers since the early 90s. My favorites are Air Max 95 and Air Max 97. Now, one thing that's different about me from your typical sneakerhead is that I actually wear the sneakers. And because of that, they can get dirty. And that is where New York Sneaker Society comes in. Using their advanced shoe cleaning products, I turned an old pair of Nikes that looked like this into this. With their cleaning products, your sneaker life can go from a year to 5 or more. I know that. I have shoes that are like 30 years old that I still wear because I've cleaned them. You can also lower your carbon footprint, haha, by keeping your kicks looking fresh. For my daily drivers, I also appreciate New York Sneaker Society's Refresh Spray to keep them smelling great and staying crisp. Head to nysneakersociety.co/sifted to clean your shoes like a pro at home and get 10% off your order. That's right, that's nysneakersociety.co/sifted for 10% off. That's right, sifters, go to nysneakersociety.co/sifted because it doesn't just give you 10% off, it gives you 15% off. Again, as I always say, I recommend the wipes and the spray if you're looking for low price, high impact products, but if you're looking to revive those shoes, buy one of the bigger kits that have like all the scrubbers and the soap and stuff like that, and that's where you'll really feel the difference with that 15% discount. So again, go to nysneakersociety.co/sifted and get that discount and get those shoes clean. And with that sponsorship, we like to talk about a smaller game of the week that has really caught your eye, and this week it was very obvious, the game that really got you guys really excited. And honestly, it's a game that's been around for a while, but it just kind of relaunched. It's a game called Witchfire. It is a single-player RPG shooter where you basically, each run, you are trying to hunt down and kill a witch. The thing is, the witch knows that you're doing that, and so she, or he, keeps sending out basically their minions to try and kill you. And as you play, you go through wave after wave. It becomes more and more difficult. It's actually based on real 15th century European witch hunts. Like, obviously they...
I think there's some embellishment.
Yes,
here.
they definitely embellish things quite a bit, but the concept comes from real things that happened in the 15th century. But it's got a little bit of a roguelike element to it, where each run you get boosted up and you level up, and then you go back in the next run and you're a little bit more powerful. It feels like
clearly a documentary.
we need David Attenborough to narrate it. It's not. I just want to be clear. It's not like a narrative-driven game full of cutscenes. It really is like one of those games where you kind of poke around in the corners of the world and you find a bunch of cool stuff, things that will help you with your stats to help you on your runs. But it's not like a game with a crazy overt story or with a 5-minute cinematic that shows the witch at her cauldron, like cooking up stuff. That's not what this game is about. This game is about getting better, having multiple runs, improving your character so the next run is a little bit easier. Again, it's got that roguelike element. It is only available for PC right now. It was at one time announced for PS4 and Xbox One. However, I do think that those versions were canceled. My guess is in the next handful of months, we're going to get announcements of Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 versions. So right now it is only available for PC. They just launched a brand new, huge expansion for this. It kind of turns the whole game on its head. Again, it's called Witchfire. It's available for PC, and it is our New York Sneaker Society Sneaker of the Week for GameFace episode 400. And with that, we're going to cut our last topic for the show today, and we'll move that into next week's show, which is a preview of Funko Fusion, which you'll want to see, because I'll say right now, I was pleasantly surprised by that game, man. I can't believe it. It was way better than I thought it was going to be. But we have run out of time, so we're going to have to immediately go to, instead, Well, that's right. It's time for Name That Game, where I show you 5 screenshots from a video game, and you try to guess the name of the game before Matt Kyle. Couple things to keep in mind before we get going. We put the chat on slow mode, which means you can only enter a chat message once every 60 seconds. Don't blow your chance to win by spamming the chat. Number 2, you need to play PC games, or you need to have a friend that likes to play PC games, because we give away a free PC game to the person who wins this. We want to make sure that that code goes to someone who's going to play it, so make sure that you play. And then the final thing is you can only win once per calendar year. So if you've already won since the year turned over January 1st, do not play, because if you do win, you're not going to get anything. Let somebody else win who can actually take the prize. And that's pretty much it. We do have brand new graphics for Name That Game for episode 400, so we have a new look for the show. Same concept. Matt, are you ready to go?
Sure.
Okay, are you guys ready to win Name That Game and win a free PC game? I hope you are. Here is the first screenshot in 3, 2, 1, go! As usual, just a ground texture. Hybrid Heaven 3, Fire Native, you're upgrading. Peter Jackson's King Kong, no! Emperor Dread thinks it's Body Harvest. It looks like it could be Body Harvest, but it's not. For 400, it should have been, though. Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, no. Cody Carter, I just bought a complete sneaker cleaning kit with the SIFTD discount code. Thank you, Cody. That's awesome, man. Thank you. Blue Dragon, no. No Man's Sky, no. Lord of the Sword, I don't even know what that is, no. Skyward Sword, no. Squishy, if you know it, don't share it. Wind Waker, no. Live Alive, no. Pokemon Let's Go, no. Klonoa Wii, no. Breath of the Wild, no. Everyone's guessing Nintendo, because you can look at that ground texture and you're like, yep.
Well, that thing on the right there is something, a little pad over there.
Yep, that's a little hint.
It has some fantasy zone to it.
Klonoa, no. Breath of the Wild, no. Pokemon Legends, no. Tears of the Kingdom, no. Smash Brothers Melee, no. Dot Hack, no. Ash's Shoe, no. Any last guesses for Image 1 before we move to Image 2?
Kirby's Air Ride.
Nope. Pikmin 2, no. Pokemon Scarlet, no. I Am Alive, no. Tales of Mana, no. Lots of guesses. Dragon Quest 11 S, no. Sonic Adventures, no.
It does have kind of a Chow color scheme on the little object there, yeah.
Pokemon Legends Arceus, no. Genshin Impact, no. Certainly not Quake. That's accurate. It is not Quake. I'll give you that one. Animal Crossing New Horizons, no. Everyone's guessing Nintendo. Everybody's Golf, no. There we go. There's a PlayStation game. That's not it either. Lots of guesses on that first image. Is that it? Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, nope. Oh, he thought it was Pokemon Scarlet. Awful looking and performing game. Not going to argue with you on that one. Two Worlds, no. Anyone else? Going once. Oh, nope. Going once. Going twice. Okay, here comes the second image. In 3, 2, 1, go. Smash Brothers, no. 007 from Russia with Love, no. 50 Cent Blood in the Sand, no. It's a picture of Shane's garden. I have an apartment, man. I have no garden. I used to have plants on my deck, and I just got rid of them after taking care of them for like 12 years. I just got sick of it. Mario Odyssey, no. Smash Brothers, no. It's not Smash Brothers. You guys keep guessing that one. Pokemon Heart Gold, no. Gunstar Heroes, no. Superman 64, no, but I can see where you might think it is. Spider-Man 2, no, but I can see where you might think that's it as well. Cyberpunk on Matt's PC. Definitely not. Eternal Sonata, no. That's an interesting guess. Any others before we go to image 3? Tokyo Jungle. That's a good guess, Yakov, but that's not it. No. Fire Native says go with plastic plants. I can't, man. I'd rather just have no plants than plastic plants. I still have an olive tree that I'm taking care of that I've had for 4 years and it has not produced a single olive. Nier Automata, no. Hydrophobia, no.
Hydrophobia taking place entirely indoors.
Yes, I think it does. Earthbound, no. That's a good guess, too, actually.
Yeah.
Burning Rangers, no. Wow. The Matrix demo, nope. Looks a little better than that, Evil Oni 5. A video game. How close was I? Pretty close. No More Heroes 2, no. Sorry, Stealthy. Any updates on Matt's plant? Okay, let's go to image 3. In 3. This one I think will give it away. Somebody will get it from this one. In 3, 2, 1, go. El Shaddai, no. Sonic Generations, no. Nino Kuni, no. Sonic Jam, no. Wolf Among Us, no. Balan Wonderworld, nope. Little Kitty Big City, that's a good guess, but that's not it. Any other guesses? I thought this might give it away. Too bright for Prototype, that's for sure. Not dreary enough. The drear factor is not enough. All right, are we going to image 4? Not even many guesses for that one. All right, here we go. Here's image 4 for episode 400 in 3, 2, 1, go. Multiversus, no. Silent Hill 4, no. Mellow Pintor giving me congrats because we made it to the 4th image. You should get it from this. Come on, people. Super Mario 3D World, no. There we have it. Chevelle Man 1979. Should we give it to him? Because other people guessed it after that.
We knew what it was.
He had it right. Okay, Chevelle Man, you get it. Congratulations. It is Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. And here is the 5th image. And that would have given it away because those keys that you collect, everybody would have known that one. Okay, you guys can stop guessing. We have a winner. Chevelle Man. Congratulations, man. That's awesome. I don't think you've ever won. And you have been on our stream for forever, man. I love it when I see people like you win. As you know, because you've been a Sifter and watching the show for a long time, you can DM us right here on Twitch. You can DM me on SIFTD. I'm at Shane. You can DM me on Twitter where I'm at Dinfire. You can DM the site on Twitter at SIFTD Games. Get at us. I'll get you your free PC code. Congratulations once again. Wow. We made it to the end of episode 400, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Before we go, don't forget, we are supported 100% at patreon.com/sifted. Even for $1 a month, you get perks. For $1 a month, you get access to all our forums and our communities. You still get like the gold frame. But mostly for just $1, you're just trying to support us. For every other tier, you get awesome stuff. For just $4 a month, you get all our content early. You get this show right here 4 days early. You get Packed or Factor a week early. You get all our other content at least 3 or 4 days early. We really try to make sure we provide value for our patrons and make sure there's a nice little lag between when we put stuff up for our patrons and when it goes live for free on YouTube. Obviously, the show is also out on all the podcast services, and if you can't afford to help us, you can still help us by reviewing the show there, leaving comments about the show there. Any type of interaction around the show helps on social media. Recommend the show to your friends on social media or just in real life. Text your friend and be like, bro, you need to be watching this show called GameFace. They just did their 400th episode, and it was awesome. So anyway.
And your friend will be like, why are you talking so weird?
Exactly. If you guys do have money, though, you can help us at Patreon. If you have Amazon Prime, you can give us a free $2.50 every month. If you're watching on YouTube, go down below to learn how to do that. It's very simple. If you've already hooked up your accounts, go right now to twitch.tv/SiftedGames and click that damn box and click that other box and give us $2. It's free. It costs you nothing.
$2.
I want my $2. I love that movie. Or I used to love it when I was young anyway. But anyway, all that stuff helps. It all helps the world go around. It all helps us make sure that we can keep doing this awesome show for you guys and for our awesome sifters and our awesome people. Thanks to all our sponsors throughout all the years. To make it to 400, we needed them as well. As I said earlier, to Shazer Ryan Realty, thank you. Ellis Cream, thank you. You guys have been a great partner for us for many years. All of them. NewYorkSneakerSociety.com. So many places have been integral to us to get to this point where we've done 400 episodes, but nobody's been more important than you. Even if you just watch the show and you don't do any of the other stuff that I beg you to do, I still appreciate you, and I still love you. So thanks to everybody. Thanks to Matt, man. Without you, this definitely never would have happened. Thank you for just being a great co-host and a great host in general with your home. And just thank you, Matt. I really appreciate it. It took all of this to get us to 400, and I appreciate.
Thrilled to not have to drive anywhere.
Yeah. It's fun. Like, I think that probably matters to you more than anything, that you don't have to drive. I don't blame you, because now I'm the one doing the driving, and I totally get it. Yep. So thanks, everybody. I really, when I say I love you guys, I really mean it. Like, even this week when it was a nightmare trying to get all this stuff done for this while wrangling Gamescom, I just kept thinking of you guys. Really, I do. Like, I think about you guys all the time. What I can do to make you guys happy, to make you happier with your pledge. I think about you guys 24/7, and I hope it comes through. I hope you guys know that I really mean it when I say that I care about you guys. So everybody have a great week. Don't forget, next week's GameFace is on Monday. So we'll be back, and I've already got stuff lined up for that episode, and we may have something real big for that episode. So have yourselves a great week full of awesome games. We'll see you next Monday. GameFace is up and out.